Hello, everyone out there not listening as of yet. Hopefully, you will be listening soon. I am with Misfit Corner Comics. Are you the owner, operator, or what exactly?
Misfit Corner Comics was started 2 years ago with me and my son. Um, so yeah, I'm the owner operator.
Okay,
There's a lot. There's a
and
there's a story behind that. And if we want to go, I can tell you about it later. But
well, you can tell. But just
oh,
one
okay.
sec. Mom, turn me down a bit. I think she's got me on in the other room, which
Oh goodness.
messes me up. Okay. So yeah, give your story about how that all got started. Misfit
Yeah.
Corner Comics.
Mike and I, my son Michael, we came up with the idea for Hero back in 2011, but it wasn't until 2014 that we actually started working on the project. Uh, Kind of in earnest, drawing it and writing it and so forth. And in 2016, my day job of 23 years went away, and my company offered me a nice big fat severance package. And one of the things we did is we took some of the money and we started Misfit Corner Comics. Our original intention was actually to open up a comic book store. We've been fans of comics for many years and have a big collection, and we wanted to open up a comic book store here in town, and everything started going in the right direction. We found a location, we got an insurance coverage, we got a lawyer, we got an accountant, we got all the stuff we needed, and then the location we picked fell through. For one reason or other, they said they passed, and it ended up being a blessing because it happened in October. In December, we had a family, not a tragedy, but my wife's 89-year-old grandmother was diagnosed with onset dementia and could no longer live by herself. And at the time, I didn't have a job. We were living off the severance package. We were the only people in the family that could move in and help take care of her. And thank God we didn't get the location that we were looking for, because the amount of time and effort that we had to put into taking care of her, we would have been bankrupt within 3 months, because there was no way for us to run a store and take care of her. And
Yeah.
so the fact that the store fell through, it's like, oh, it was, it was bad and a blessing at the same exact time. And we ended
And
up
you didn't
being,
even know it.
yes, yeah, we ended up staying with her for over 8 months, which my father-in-law didn't think we'd make 2 weeks, and we helped take care of her for as long as we could. Eventually, she got to the point where she had to be put into a home for people who deal with dementia, and
Yeah.
she's there and she's very happy. But we had several incidents where she would just leave the house and go wandering off. There was one day where there were 5 incidents, and of those 5, 3 times the police had to be called in order to help us locate her and bring her home. I mean, it got really bad, but it was one of these things where no one else could do it, and we were able to do it. And luckily at that time, I wasn't working. I had the money in the bank that I didn't have to work, and we could focus on that. And I hate to say it, but it's a truth. Sometimes family is more important than even dreams, And we ended up, instead of trying to open up the store, we switched and focused on publishing. And that's what we've been doing since then. So is working on the books, because we're already in the middle of book 3 right now. So
cool.
Yep. But that's the long story of where Misfit Corner Comics came from and how it happened.
So are you writer, artist, what?
Writer, artist, inker, letterer. I pretty much do everything except the coloring and the editing. I get some help with that. My son Michael, who he's now 25, when we started the project, he was in his teens, helps me do a lot of the plot design, plot elements, story ideas, character ideas. We used to have what we call like little jam sessions where we would go out and have something to eat. And I'd say, okay, let's talk about the book, because I don't write like full scripts like a lot of writers do. We sit down and we say, okay, in the next chapter, Hero has to do this, and by the end, he has to be here. Now we just need to fill in what happens from the start to the end, and we just go through it and work on it, and then I immediately pretty much go right into drawing. There have been times where I have written or I've actually drawn entire chapters without sitting down and writing out a single word of dialogue. I draw it knowing what's going to happen, and then I sit down and then I type out and write up what the dialogue's actually going to be. I mean, I know that's an insane way to do comics, but
it's almost how Stan Lee did it. It
is, but I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually done an entire graphic novel, the art for an entire graphic novel before I sat down and wrote one word.
I can believe that because, like I said, it's, except for Stan being the artist, not drawing it, he just basically told the artist what he wanted, and then he went and filled in the bubbles afterwards, all the dialogue afterwards.
Well, we always sit down and we always kind of plot it out. Like we say, okay, we know where it starts and we know where it ends, and we know what points have to be hit between the beginning and the end, and it's just a matter of creating the story that gets you from point A to point B to point C. And it's just, my mind works visually, and he helps keep me in the right direction.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That's definitely good. We got 4 viewers. If anybody has a question in the chat or a comment, please feel free to make it if you can. I know not everybody can, but although one of those 4 people is me, one's my mom, so there's 2. Got 2 extra viewers.
Well, here, let me jump in real quick so we get another one.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I should do. I'll go tweet it.
Yeah.
You just gotta make sure you mute me.
Yep, turn down the volume. I turned it down. Yep. All right.
Just gonna share this around, although automatically goes Twitter again, and so.
I guess I can share my screen and actually show the campaign. That might actually work. Instead of just looking at my little logo there. So how long have you been doing this?
So how did interviewing people or just YouTube?
Everything.
Or comics. Myself, YouTube, probably I started trying to do YouTube 6 months. I got a second channel which I devoted to more, and then I figured out that this comic one would be easier to work with. So
okay.
I started doing it probably more August, concentrating it on it. I've had it since like late April, but never concentrated on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started my YouTube channel. Well, actually, I've had it since 2008, but I didn't really do anything with it until January. I got inspired by I Love Comics and Diversity in Comics and Douglas Ernst and all them, and I decided I was going to do a daily channel, put daily videos up. And Mike and Mike's my son, we like comics, we like movies, we like Legos, we like toys, so there is no end to what we can put up. And we started doing all different types of videos, and right now we're mostly focused on Hero.
Yeah, I can see that. As you can see, I like toys too.
Yeah.
I like comics a lot too. We got Willie Reed is in the chat. He's also here from Canada.
Oh, okay.
He's in New Brunswick. He is an hour ahead of us, so it's like 11 his time. just
Oh,
after
okay.
Low.
Okay.
So, and we got 7 people in the chat. Anybody who has a question or comment, please feel free. And comics I got into back in when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. My mom bought me some Christian Archies. Hello, Jerry Gain. How are you?
Yeah, Jerry's my wife's cousin.
Oh, hello.
He's usually a stalker on my channel. He comes in, he listens, he doesn't ever say anything unless we call him out. So I appreciate him greatly.
Yeah. I'm glad he's here. Hey, not that you probably don't already know, but like I said, any questions or whatever comments, feel free to ask. I'm trying to think well, how did you yourself get into comics?
Well, I was a big G.I. Joe and Transformers fan, as any kid from the 80s was. And I can remember my very first comic that I got. I was visiting some relatives in Rhode Island, and my mom had given me a little bit of cash and said, go down to the little Champ, the little Jiffy store, get some candy or something. And when I got there, they had a spinner rack, and on it was Transformers #2 from the Marvel series, like 85, 84, 85. And I picked it up and I bought it and I took it back to the house and I read it and I loved it. And I was like, Mom, I need more money. I need to go back. I need to find #1. And I went back the next day. And for some reason, I just assumed, that they would have #1 or #3 or whatever. And they didn't. There was no other Transformer comics. And so I had the money in my hand. I said, oh, I got to buy something. So my second comic that I bought was Power Pack #1. And that one probably had more of an impact on my comics enjoyment than Transformers ever did. Even though I collected Transformers and eventually got into G.I. Joe, it was Power Pack that introduced me to superhero comics. And I've always loved the kid type comics. I've loved the group dynamic comics. And that was a big influence on me, was Power Pack. And I know a lot of people out there are probably saying, Power Pack, what the heck's that? Nobody knows what it was. But in the 80s, Power Pack was like Teen Titans. It was, in some cases, it was more popular or as popular as the X-Men.
That was a bunch of younger kids together, right? If I remember.
Yep. It's fantastic. Well, some of the characters in the Marvel Universe have kind of grown up. Like the oldest brother is part of the Fantastic Four, not the group itself, but part of the Fantastic Foundation. So he's hanging out with Franklin Richards. The oldest daughter is she's part of Runaways now, or she's involved in Runaways. So all the characters have actually matured and moved on, but they were always my first love in superhero comics.
Willie's asking whether you've been on FanSpeak yet.
Actually, I was on there just yesterday.
Yeah, I was thinking you might have been. I was remembering Melter saying that you might be. So.
Yep. Todd from Ignition is. I'm going to be on his show tomorrow night around 7. So.
Eastern or?
Yes, Eastern time. Yep.
Okay. D loves all things. Andrew, did you like any good comic books?
Oh, D, that hurt, man. That hurt. Well, actually, I collected G.I. Joe and Transformers almost religiously. I constantly looked for back issues. G.I. Joe #2 was like my holy grail for many, many years, because that was one of the hardest ones to find at the time. But it was my dad, who was in the Navy, took me to the commissary, and he would let me get a comic off the rack. And I usually always went with G.I. Joe and Transformers. And then there was one time that they didn't have any G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I picked up the X-Men annual, the one where they went to Asgard and Storm had the Mohawk and she had the Hammer of Thor, and it was drawn by Art Adams. And that was the comic that made me want to draw comics. that was the one that I didn't know anything about the X-Men. I didn't know anything about them really at all. I was familiar with them. I had a, you know, a passing knowledge of who they were and what they were, but it wasn't until I picked up that issue that I fell in love with not only comics but wanting to draw comics. So
Cool.
so yeah, I did like good comics too, D, you know?
Comics and Illustration Studio 7.62 says, "The truth hurts, Andrew. Laugh out loud." I
Yeah,
take
that's
it they're friends of yours.
yeah. Well, that's actually Avery, the guy that helps me on the book. I thought he was crashing, but maybe he's just crashing the chat.
Okay.
So,
Well,
all right.
Comics and illustration. If you're helping him with I think you were saying the colors. If you want to come in, let me know, and Andrew can
Oh,
send you a link
he's
if you can.
shy. He's shy, you know.
Oh, what?
Oh,
Why did you call it? Willie's asking why you called it Misfit Corner Comics.
well, I worked at a Citibank for 23 years, and my last position that I was in there, which I was there for over 15 years, was in the MIS department, which is Management Information Systems. We did a lot of the daily reports, and our office was in an old conference room. We shared the office with like the girl that did all of the payroll, and then with another girl that did all the scheduling and so forth. And we jokingly called ourselves the Misfits, MIS Fits, and we were shoved in a corner, kind of a corner office. They eventually put us out on the floor where we intermingled with the rest of the population, but for a long time we worked in this dark closet of an office. And that's where the idea for Misfit Corner came from. But yeah, so not very impressive, I know, but it's Misfits is what we called ourselves. Actually, they asked us to put together a yearbook one year in which we went around and we took photographs of all the different teams and all the managers, and we put together a book, and they wanted all the teams to give themselves a name. And they, you know, like, where this is the A team and this is all these different teams. Well, we wanted to call ourselves the Misfits, and the senior management said we couldn't do it. Told us that we weren't allowed to call us that because it was derogatory. And we were like, but we're calling ourselves that. And they said, nope, sorry, you can't use it. And I put my fist down and said, damn it, I'm going to be call myself the Misfits, you know, and that's how Misfit Corner came about.
Cool. Okay.
It's kind of me throwing it to the man, you know, in a little way.
Yeah. D Love says Mohawk Storm was the best. We got Vane in the chat, says Hell Raven. Willie says brilliant. Melter's now in the chat. Says
Yep.
how
Hey.
y'all. He says just finished Godzilla on Chester's stream, and Joshua Hughes is in the chat and says Hell Raven. Melter and Reed, if you want, you do have the link on Twitter if you want to pop into the panel.
Okay, what's the Hail Raven about then?
Okay. D Love says, at Andrew, how do I find your book, Hero? There is actually a link in the description for his Indiegogo, and you can go over there and purchase whichever one. We will be going into it in a minute or a few minutes, going over the campaign, so everybody can see all the different prices and know everything. So what else? You were asking about the Raven. Well, a while back, I'm not sure whether you've seen Pope Fire in the various chats.
Okay.
Or she created an emote named Pope Fire for her because she liked Starfire, one of the Teen Titans really best. And almost every person that she found on his panel, she'd ask, who do you like better? Who's your favorite Titan? You know, or this thing. And then somebody came up with the name Pope Raven. So, and then there grew a whole bunch of popes, and everybody who's ever they're with when they come into a chat, either hails whichever Pope. So hail Raven, as in Pope Raven.
Gotcha. Oh, so Team Raven is at war with Team Starfire. Is that anything like Team Edward versus Team? What was the other guy's name from Twilight? I forgot already. Never mind. I'm showing how totally uncool I am by making Twilight references.
It might be like it on a very minute scale. These guys are just fun trolls. They're not bad. They're sort of like what I think you said your brother-in-law or cousin or whatever.
My wife's cousin. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry. Yeah.
Is to your chat. They're to the whole Comicsgate community.
Oh, okay. Very good.
They're on a lot of our streams, so. Joshua says, Veins. Okay, Joshua says, it's about the Teen Titans. Do you like Raven or Starfire more? So there's a question. Which and you don't necessarily have to choose Raven or Starfire. You can choose another Teen Titan.
I was trying to think if I have a favorite Teen Titan. I mean, I was probably more of a Beast Boy fan than anybody else. I kind of liked him the best because I remember when I read Teen Titans, he was like the youngest of the group, and I liked his powers. I liked the idea of being able to transform into different animals. I thought that was kind of cool. So
yeah.
But if I had to choose between Raven and Starfire, oh, that's really difficult because I can see positives for both of them. Oh, he says you have to choose one or the other. Okay. Can I choose Donna Troy?
As far as I'm concerned, you can. And I guess since we're on the topic, what do you think of the new Titans series?
I haven't seen it. What I've seen of the previews and what I've heard feedback, I'm not. We'll see. I'm very much, when it comes to TV series, even stuff that's on like channels like that, like on demand channels. I tend to wait until they release them on like a Blu-ray, and then I'll pick it up and binge watch the whole thing. So
okay.
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Okay, John, you should have a link. It's in with everything. The big one I gave for everybody. Peter Felter just got in, and he got in from that link. Let's see.
All right, this is cool. I've spoken to him numerous times. Now I get to actually hear him.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
I'm doing good. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to go finish up, catching up with the chat here. Vane says Raven is greater than Starfire. Team Raven is at war with Team Starfire. We don't all hail popes. We hail the Teen Titan characters. Says Joshua. This is Joshua saying now. We all hail the popes. We all hail the popes. Put the pope part in the name. And he's saying about having to choose. Willie Reed saying, is Hero the first book, Andrew?
Hero Book 1 is the first book in our series for Hero, but it's not the first book I've ever done. It's actually, Hero Book 1 is the fourth graphic novel I've done. I've actually done, I had a more of a mature readers type book that I did pretty much almost right out of high school called Tales from the Cornerstone. I ended up doing 2 volumes of that. It's out there somewhere. I wouldn't recommend it. It's back when my art was absolutely horrible, and it's not a big thing. I did help a friend of mine create a book called Agents of Cult, which he ended up taking the stories that I did and collected into a trade. So technically that was my 3rd graphic novel, and Hero is the 4th one. So I've done a few other ones, but I've also done some smaller indie press, like backup stories in some friends' comics. I always forget this one. I did the majority of the art for a kid-friendly series, web series from Action Labs called Glob World. It was a kid-friendly property that they had licensed, and I did the art for the 0 issue, the 1st issue, the backup stories in issues 2 and 3, and then I did the whole 4. Wait, what was it? The 3rd issue. I did 3 whole issues out of the 5-issue series, plus the backup stories, and the company went bust, and I don't think it's out there anymore. I asked the writer and the editor. I said, it didn't go bust because of my art, did he? He says, oh no, the guys who were licensing the property, that created the property, were horrible money managers, and they pretty much blew all their money and weren't able to sustain the product. So, but I got to work on it, and it was one of my first paying gigs, so I was really happy about that.
Okay, and we got John Dillard in the panel with us now. John Dillard.
Hey guys.
Hey,
how you guys doing?
Not too bad.
John.
I'm sorry. What was your name? Hero. What was your first name?
Andrew.
Andrew. Oh, nice to meet you, Andrew.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, Aubrey's here?
No, just Andrew.
Okay.
Vane in the chat is asking, Hero is a fox?
No, actually, he was originally supposed to be he was based on a raccoon. The story is that my dog and I went to go, one morning we got up to go take out the trash. And at the apartment that we were living at, this huge raccoon jumped out of the dumpster and ran past us. And I was thinking about that all day long. And then I drew up the first image of Hero, and he was supposed to be a raccoon, but I drew his legs really, really long. And Avery, who would help me with the coloring, said it looks more like a kangaroo crossed with a raccoon. So we decided to make it our own character, our own species of characters. So he's a Tilmaroon, but he was originally based on a raccoon, but he's not a fox. But it's funny he says that because I designed a character for book 3 who is a fox, and when I drew her, I fell in love with this character. I thought she looked so fantastic that I actually decided that she would become Hero's first true love, kind of like Peter Parker's Gwen Stacy. But that's not necessary to say it's his only love, but she's definitely going to be his first. And we get introduced to her in book 3. And she is a fox. So.
Okay, Willie's saying the big one, John, that's about him getting in. Joshua says, the cult of Raven worships the goddess Raven. Our enemy is the Church of Starfire. Willie says, ask me, where can we find Andrew's social media? Well, his Twitter link and his YouTube link are in the description of this video.
Yes, and those are the easiest places to find me is on YouTube and Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, but honestly, I'm rarely ever there anymore. I get information from there every now and then, but oh well.
And Joshua Hughes says, "Hail, brother John Dillard, gaming the system, D&Q fan and Pro Edition champ, Pro Slayer, father of Raven, and winner of all competitions."
Hail.
Wow, we got a big show there.
Willie says, a kangaroo.
Yeah, that does sound right. I think what Avery said, he was a kangaroon, and that sounded a little bit better. But in the story, his family comes from the Tilmar Valley, so we called them Tilmaroons. That's where the name comes from.
Okay. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the majority of the characters in the book are based on actual real animals, except for Hero and his family. They're the only ones that we created, and since they're our creation, we can do whatever we want with them. So that's my story.
Cool. And Vane says, Gwen Stacy greater than Mary Jane.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay. So we got a few people in the chat now, so I think we can
Andrew, do you think that you could give me a little synopsis of what this book is about real quick?
Sure. I'm going to try to do my 60 seconds pitch and see if I can get that to work good. The story is that when this small woodland creature emerges from his winter hibernation, it is prophesized he will be the greatest hero the world has ever known. Therefore, his mom names him Hero. And when he grows up, and he's very short, he's skinny, he doesn't look anything like what you'd think a hero would look like. And that's kind of the point. Being a hero has nothing to do with how you look. It's about your actions and so forth. So he and his best friend Pudge the bird go out into the world to find adventure and to find what the true meaning of being a hero is. The other twist to this story, as is always, there's a bad guy out there. There's a bad guy out in the world, and it's been prophesized that this bad guy will take over the world, but that he could be stopped by a single hero. So the bad guy has sent out forces into the world to find this hero, simply based on the fact that, based on his name. And when Hero and his best friend Pudge start going out into the world, they don't have a clue that this is actually happening. And book 1 is them going out and starting to find out that they have a connection to this villain that's going to try to take over the world, and they don't really understand it just yet. And it becomes more clear as the story goes on. But we actually have a overarching story that is going to connect all the books. My son and I, when we got to the end of book 1, realized that there was a bigger story involved here, and we're actually planning 10 books in the series. And now, see, I'm already off my 60-second pitch, but one of the things he finds out, it actually happens in book 2, is he has 12 other brothers and sisters, and they have all gone out into the world and gone on different adventures. And there's Greek gods are also involved in the story, and each of his brothers and sisters has been kind of chosen by a Greek god to be a champion, and they have each given them a gift of some type. And he's told that in order to defeat this evil, he has to collect all 12 of the gifts, which means he has to go and find all of his siblings. And the cool part about that is all of his siblings have gone in totally different directions, had totally different adventures, and it allows us to take him and put him into different worlds, so to say. Book 3, he goes to find his oldest sister, who is literally the Empress of China in their world. In the 4th book, we're planning for him to go and try to find another brother who's a pirate. So we're going to have a pirate story, and we have all these different ideas, all these different stories, and this is just one of the ways to connect them all together. And one of the bottom lines of the main storylines is that each of his brothers and sisters all have an attribute of being a hero, and when he finds them, he kind of becomes like he's like them in the fact that, like, his you get introduced in the 1st book to his oldest brother, or the brother that's older than him, so to say, is actually the 10th in the line, but his brother Brock, who is like this huge hulking guy, and you find out his story, it revolves around being not only being strong physically, but being strong as a protector of people and so forth. And that's an attribute of being a hero. And when Hero finds him and gets into his story, it's something that he, kind of takes on as well. And each of his siblings has something, an aspect of themselves that defines a hero. In book 3, his oldest sister is a leader, not only being the empress of their version of China, but she's responsible. She's a leader of people, and and that's kind of one of those things that a hero has to be able to do, is not only protect people and be strong for the people, but also lead them. And there's a lot more to it. I'm bubbling over on this, but it's another aspect of the story that we're going to dive into, is because he has another brother who's very smart. He has another brother and sister who's very cunning, and he has another brother and sister. One is he has a twin sister and brother who represent bravery, and another one represents persistence. And it's kind of the underlining story that we're building, and there's so much positive stuff in this story that I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, the story seems to ooze positivity and virtue, but and him himself, is he a traditional Robin Hood style hero, or does he have some sort of a different type of heroism, like magical or anything like that?
He's very much learning. He's got a a hero. You'd probably say he's got a hero soul in the fact that in the first book, other than saving his twin sister or one of his twin sisters' life when she jumps out of a huge tree, he doesn't do a lot of heroic stuff. But as his adventures go on, he learns by doing, and that's going to be another one of those themes that happens. So he's almost like a blank slate in the fact that as he goes on these adventures and he absorbs and he does, it's going to build him up to be the person that he's destined to be, which is this great hero. But it's one of these things where we're doing it kind of step by step, but he's very much an innocent. He's very much a I keep saying blank slate. That's probably one of the best terms I could use to describe him. But he's going to be a character that everybody can root for, and I just love him. I think he's awesome.
Okay, D Love says nice pitch. Willie says Andrew's cartoony style looks similar to my own. Is he self-taught artist or did he actually study art?
I actually a little bit of both. We have a school here in Jacksonville called the Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. It's very much a performing arts school. If you've ever seen the movie Fame or familiar with that, where you have a school where everybody there, you got theater majors and orchestra majors and visual artists. I went to a high school that focused on arts, and so I do have some training in high school, but my wife and I started a family very, very young, almost right out of high school, to the point where I did not have an opportunity to go to college and do more stuff because I had to go to work and take care of my wife and kids. So a lot of it is self-taught, but I do have some training, but it's more or less, they very much frowned on comics at the school. Even though that was one of the things that brought me and Avery and a couple other guys that I've known since high school together, and we're still in contact, we still talk, we still do stuff together, was the love of comics. But in high school, that was something that was very, very much frowned upon.
Twix draws in the chat and says, "Yo, boys." Okay. And we're basically caught up. So we're going to go a little bit over the Indiegogo here. We got Hero, Book 1, full color, kid-friendly graphic novel. Hero.
I think Muttman's in the chat. He says he really likes the project.
Oh.
Yeah, he says we need more family-friendly books like this from Comicsgate creators.
Muttman, if you've got the time and that, I think you should have the link if you want to jump in to the panel. Hero Book 1 is the first book in a series of kid-friendly action-adventure original graphic novels. Now for the overview. Our story begins when this small woodland creature is foretold he will be the greatest hero the world has ever known. So his mother named him Hero. And when he grows up, Hero is small and doesn't necessarily look like Hero. But being a hero has nothing to do with what you look like. Hero Book 1 begins the journey of Hero and his best friend Pudge as they head out into the world to find adventure and to discover what being a hero is truly all about.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these pictures here of Hero and some of his companions, and it looks like almost like a nice little setup of like a D&D trope where he's like a human fighter and he has a mage and an archer, rogue, and that kind of thing.
Actually, you know what? Let me share a link. I have what I set up as an online portfolio. Which
do you have any of those drawings that you've been doing lately this week to show?
Okay.
There's 3 of them are on the Indiegogo right now, but the other 3 that I did I haven't posted those anywhere yet.
Okay, before you don't put your link in yet because
okay.
we don't have because you don't have a wrench, you can't. So just type.
Oh, I was just gonna text it to you or give it to
Oh,
you.
in the chat here. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
What this is whenever you're like a no-name artist and you're trying to sign up for a convention, they always ask you to share your work so that they can see and make sure you're really an artist. So I created this. It's just a page on my website that has an online portfolio, and what it is it's mostly pinups, cover, character designs, just anything from the first 3 books that screams, this is what the art looks like, check it out. And this is all my pen and ink and gray wash stuff. Nothing, Avery, I haven't updated this with any of Avery's coloring, so if you guys want to see what I did, what I contributed to this book art wise, this is a good example of it. And there's a lot more character designs on here because I go into characters for book 3 and so forth. So
I love it, man. It reminds me of Usagi Yojimbo.
Definitely an influence, especially when I started working on book 3, which is the China story. That and Topi. Topi is the name of the artist that Avery turned me on to that just blew me away when I saw his stuff. And what's funny is when I finished book 2, I finished book 1, I told myself I was going to step up the art in book 2 and I was going to blow people away. And when I started working on it, I was going with the same old formula. And then Avery kind of showed me some of Topi's work, and I think he's either Italian or French. He's no longer with us, but his work, his pen work was just amazing, especially when it came to backgrounds. And I was done with like the first 10 pages of book 2, and I said, I've seen the light, I've been influenced, and I went back and I redid the backgrounds for the first 10 pages, and I just kept going with it. And it's some of the best stuff I've ever done is in book 2, which Avery's in the process of coloring right now.
There's a question. Do you do digital or traditional pencils, inks, and all that sort of stuff?
I do everything pretty much traditionally. I do scan my stuff in and make corrections and fix little things, but nope, I like to sit down with a pen and pencil and brush for watercolor or gray wash, which all I do is take black Indian ink and mix it with water and use a brush to dab it and draw with it. And yeah. Okay. No, very, very much traditional. So,
okay. Willie Reed's asking whether we go through the tiers of your campaign, and that's just what we are about to do.
Okay, cool.
Your featured one is your $20 one plus shipping. Basis hero basic.
It's supposed to say basic, but I'm a horrible speller, so.
Okay, and you're doing flat. You're doing it 8.5 by 11. That's slightly bigger than the traditional comic page.
Yes, well, I'd always planned to do it at that size. When I set up the original pages, instead of working on 11 by 17, I worked on 17 by 14 page. Because I really liked the. I forgot that. Avery knows what it's called, but it's kind of like the European style of graphic novels where they're the oversized, they're not comic size, they're oversized page. And I've always liked that, and that's how I wanted Hero to be. So it also gave me more room to draw, not having to try to fit within a 10 by 15 page. I can expand and do a little bit more.
Cool.
So.
Okay, he's Kat saying, this campaign was shown on Fanspeak, wasn't it? Yes, it was on Fanspeak last night.
Yes.
And you just shipped to Canada and the United States. Is there a difference in the shipping price?
For Canada, no. Canada and the U.S., it's every time I've done shipping to Canada, it's always been either fairly close or almost exactly the same. So I'm not too worried about that.
Okay, and then the question is, how much is shipping? I don't want to click all that.
I think with the basic perk, it's $7, and For the $20 and the next one up, because what comes with it is an original 6x9 sketch, which of course fits perfectly within an 8.5x11 book. So it's not anything extra. It's when you get to the higher levels that have larger art, like the 9x12 sketches, the price goes up a little bit, simply because you got to in order to secure the art, needs to be bigger,
envelope.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Are you going to ship beyond Canada and the States?
I have opened it up to do other places worldwide, because I had somebody from Singapore contact me. They really liked some of the art, and wanted to get one of the original pages of art that I offered. So I did. I did a Kickstarter for the black and white book back in 2016, and I really shot myself in the foot because I had a couple of backers who were international, and I kept adding new stuff to I had perks, which included a sketchbook and prints and other stuff. And by the time I went to go ship to the international people, granted that I didn't have a lot of them, it was almost double what I had actually quoted, because I was being stupid and didn't know ahead of time. So I was trying to be careful with this one, but
yeah, makes sense.
Live and learn. Trust me, live and learn.
Willie says, I actually collect magazine-size comics. Too cool.
Oh, I love that size. Especially there was a comic recently released through, I think it was Boom Studios, that was the larger size, and I forgot the name of it. I have it around here somewhere, but I just love that size.
Okay, so your next one is Basic Hero Plus. What I've noticed, are you going to have a digital tier, like maybe a cheaper digital tier?
At this point, no. When I was listening to a lot of some of the other guys, Ethan and DNC and so forth, and one of the things Ethan had said in one of his was the digital would be like the very last thing you offer. And I don't know. A part of me thinks that some people like the idea of digital, and then what's really funny is when I did that first campaign, the Kickstarter one, I offered the digital, and I got a lot of people contacting me and said, hey, I really like this, but I really want to hold it in my hand. And that's what I don't like digital comics. I don't read digital comics. I'd rather have it in my hand,
Yeah, I'm the same way, but some people can't afford that.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. It'll be made available eventually, I think. But for this campaign, and once again, this is very much a learning process. If we get a lot of requests for people wanting, to have digital versions, we'll definitely make it available at some point.
Okay, Willie says digital PDFs look amazing on my iPad. Okay, and the 31, what's the difference between the 20 and the 30?
We're doing a limited number where Avery will do a color ink wash on top of my illustration, so it's like getting a full color sketch. Okay,
so you're coloring the 6x9.
Exactly.
For an extra $10, you get it colored.
Yep.
And this is saying only ship to the States.
Yeah, I had set that up initially. And people had started already choosing that. So when the question came, hey, do you ship to Canada? I had to create a separate tier for Canada.
Okay.
And that's why there's two $30 ones. One that actually says Canada on it to make it available to somebody.
And 5 out of 50 of those are claimed. And there's Canada. 1 out of 50 so far is claimed.
Yeah, there's probably there's only going to be 50 of those altogether. So as we get closer, I'll probably have to limit the number. But Avery's willing to do 50 for me without, he's a nice guy, but I can only push him so far.
Okay, and up next is 45 Basic Hero Deluxe. And you get a 9x12.
Yep.
Sketch of the hero. So that's going up. So that's pretty good. These are good perks. What are people in the chat? Let them know what you think of the perks since you're here. And again, the Canada version.
Yep.
Are there only so many of these sketch cards? No.
Nope.
Sketch cards.
Nope. Then, well, if it's just me doing the sketches, there's no limit. But if I have to ask Avery to do something, I need to put a limit on it because, you know, he's also got a full-time job and, you know, can't always do everything I want him to do, even if I beg him. But that's okay.
Okay. And here. The $50 for $5 more is you get the 6x9 and you get a 9x12 illustration of him as a samurai.
Yeah, I had done a few illustrations. I wanted to do 9x12 illustrations of some of the characters from book 1, and I just had a ball doing them, so I made them their own separate perk. You can see a larger image of that sketch further down. I've done 6 of them so far, and I've posted 3 of them on the Indiegogo. So,
okay, and there's only one available of it.
Yep.
Muttman is wondering how many pages in book 1.
The main story is 150 pages. There's a 4-page epilogue and an 8-page backup story for a total of 162 pages.
So the first book is 162 pages for $20.
Yep.
That is a steal, folks. Steal, I tell you.
I agree. It's a lot of pages for, you know.
I was just thinking with the graphic novel, they'd be like 48, like everybody else, you know.
Well, one of the difference between this project and probably a lot of others is it's already done. It's complete. Avery, I started the Indiegogo after he turned in the last color page to me, so it's finished. But the only problem is that we kicked it off during the months of November and December, so we kind of shot ourselves in the foot like that. So we'll see. But one of the things that happened when I got done drawing and when I got completely done with book 1, we immediately started into book 2. And book 2 is completely finished. Avery's in the process of coloring it right now, and I've already started work on book 3. So I'm hoping that if everything goes according to plan, when Avery's done coloring book 2, which should probably happen next summer, we'll be done with book 3 and rolling right into book 4. So
cool.
Yeah.
So how long did it take to do that? You know, go finish book 1, then book 2. How long was the
book 1 took 2 years because I was working a full-time job at the time. So I did it on the weekends and in the evenings is the only time I had to do it. And what's really funny is I told my boss when they told me my position was going away and they were going to give me the severance package. We were 95% done with book 1 at that point. It's like, oh, great. Now you guys are going to give me the time I need to finish this book. But the book 2 only took a year because I had the money and I didn't have to work. So I spent the majority of my time working on book 2. And book 3, let's see, it includes chapters 13, 14, 15. I'm working on chapter 16, which is the 4th chapter of the book. And there may be 8 chapters. So we're almost through the middle of the book. But I got a really, really good offer. One of the managers that I used to work with at my old company went to work for another company, and they were looking for somebody who had my skills. And she reached out to me and said, hey, you should apply for this job. Well, I got the job, and now I'm back working full time again. So Hero Book 3 kind of got slowed down a little bit because of that, but we're still moving forward. We're drawing every day, and I'm still hoping to have it done by next summer. So
cool. So each book's going to be 162 pages?
Actually, no. Book 2, the main story is 175 pages plus a 4-page epilogue and an 8-page backup story for 180 something is book 2. And, well, I always break it down by chapters. Book 1 was 6 chapters, the first 6 chapters. Book 2 was the next 6 chapters. Book 3, we've already laid it out. It's going to be 8 chapters. And the chapters can be anywhere from 18 pages to 45 pages, depending on how long. It's one of the great things about doing your own book is you're not stuck in the 22-page or 20-page per issue of modern comics. You know, you can if it takes me 10 pages to tell the story I need to tell, it takes 10 pages. If it takes 65, it takes 65. So I have that freedom to do that. But
with it being so many pages for the graphic novels, are you thinking maybe at some point getting it broken down into, say, the 22 pages or somewhere around there to put in comic book shops?
We talked about that at one point. It is an option. I think chapter 1 is like 24 pages. I think the shortest chapter in book 1 is like 20 pages. I think the most is 36. So I mean, it could be done, but I got some advice when I first started working on my first graphic novel from one of the guys that owned the comic book store that I went to, and I was telling him about my project and how I was going to work on it. And his advice was, he gave me one bit of advice. He says, if you're going to do this, you need to get several issues done before you go to print with number 1. And he said, so many people come into the store, they find a new independent comic, they pick it up, they love it, and then a month later, they're waiting for issue 2, and it's not out. And sometimes it could take 3 to 4, 6 months before the next issue comes out. He says that kills all the motivation behind buying an independent comic. So he drilled it into my head. I need to have a large number of issues done before I go to print. And when I did my first book, Tales from the Cornerstone, I actually finished each of I think it was 5 chapters, which would have made up 5 comics. And when I finished it, another friend of mine said, hey, why are you going to publish this as a comic? You already have a graphic novel done. Why not just do it as a graphic novel? And I'm like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. And that's what I ended up doing. With Hero, I intended it to be a graphic novel from the very beginning. And Avery kind of picks on me a little bit because while he's coloring it, the first chapter, not a lot happens. You're introduced to the characters, the story is set up, but not a lot happens. And he's like, if your first issue, if you did it as a single comic, would be the boringest comic ever. It's beautiful, it looks great, but nothing happens. It's very, very boring. It was written to be a graphic novel. Yeah. So I think if I made it into as individual comics, which we actually looked at one point, we actually pitched it to a company, and I thought that it would look really great in newsprint, but nothing happened, so that was fine. And it was probably a good thing because this story is a graphic novel. It's not individual comics. So that's a long way to answer the question. Sorry.
No problem. Well, Muttman asked a question that's already been asked. Okay. Where did the name Misfit Corner Comics come from?
Oh, you don't want me to tell the story all over again.
We'll get back to that a bit later. Either that or Muttman can go watch it. Go look earlier in the stream later. Okay, so we got Super Perk number 2. This is what? Hero's Mom for $50.
Oh. Yep.
So the first Super Perk, which is from one of them, is Hero as a Samurai. The next one's Hero's Mom.
Yep.
Super Perk. What the heck happened to number 3?
I went out of order because number 3, I finished it later. I finished 4 before I finished 3. So in my mind, I just kept it straight. I know. I can't spell and I can't do numbers, so.
Okay, Super Perk number 4. Missy, an illustration of Missy and Mary. Again, there's only one of these. So if you want these original arts, you gotta put out some money. And there's only one of each. So
yep.
Basic Hero × 3. So this is what, 3 issues?
Yep. And each one comes with a sketch. So if it's something you want to give as a gift to somebody, it's perfect.
That's it. I just want to know, how are you doing it for this price?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. I don't. The money, the goal that we set is literally for fees, printing, shipping, period. Avery has already been paid for the first book. When I got my severance package, he was the very first person I cut a check to cover the cost of coloring the book. So I'm not trying to make money in order to pay for producing the book, paying myself, paying Michael, paying Avery. That's all been done. The goal is simply printing the book, shipping it, and fulfilling it. That's it. I'm not trying to make $1 million. I'm just trying to publish the book and get it out there. And actually, to be honest with you, the way the bulk shipping or the bulk printing came in, if we were able to meet our goal, actually, when I did the calculation, we would need like 240 backers, and the printing of it at that amount could get us up to 500 copies and still cover all the shipping and everything. And the reason for that is then we would have extra copies so that when we offered book 2, we would be able to offer book 1 and book 2 packages together because we'd already have extras left over. So, yeah, I'm not. When people see that, they say you're not going to be able to pay yourself. I'm not trying to pay myself. I'm not trying to pay Avery. Not trying to pay. It's all about getting the books into people's hands. That's really all I want to do at this point.
That's great.
Cool.
When we get to the second book, then we're going to try to make some money. But with the first book, it's everybody's been compensated. So
yeah,
it's one of the advantages of doing it this way is the fact that we've already been taken care of.
Yeah.
So
I swear, man, you need to get this like in like the Scholastic or like go into like some kind of like family like Comic-Con like thing, like even like Christianish.
Yep.
Even if it's not, if you're not Christian, or that it would be perfect for that kind of audience for kids to have this at that kind of Comic-Con or whatever. Once you've had at least your first 3 books ready, you could have them all lined up in a little booth.
Yep. Well, one of my friends had suggested to me, says, when you get to a certain point, maybe you need to stop and maybe step back and work on a different project. And I talked to Mike about it, and I said, how about when we're done with book 4, maybe we'll consider that. He's like, how about 5? And I'm like, okay, that's fine too. So we have no intention of doing anything else. Avery and I want to bring back Cornerstone, but that'll be something that he's going to do the art for, where I'm going to write it and plot it, and he's going to do the art. But for the time being, our focus is Hero. So, and the goal is to our original goal had been to put 1 book a year, but because I went back to work, it's kind of slowed down a little bit. But 2 books are done, being written, drawn, lettered, edited. Book 1 has been colored. Book 2 is in the process of being colored, which, by the way, if anybody out there is interested, Avery does live streams from time to time where he's actually coloring the book, and you can actually see him working on it. His YouTube channel is Comics and Illustrations Studios 7.62. And he's on my channel all the time when I do live streams, and I'll draw and he'll be coloring. And it's something that it's kind of, we really want people to be able to be involved and watch us as we do it. So we're trying to make ourselves open to as many people as possible, almost pretty much every step of the way. So
cool. Yeah. So, and what would the shipping be at this level? Say the 55. Those 3 books, or do you know offhand?
I'd have to look at it myself. Hold on a second. I don't think it's much because, I mean, it's just all about packing. The shipping isn't very much, but let me double check. Let me see if I have a quick way. That's the 3. I think the shipping is only $9, but let me double check. No, it's $10.
Well,
$10 for the U.S. and $12 for Canada.
Oh, well, that's not bad. That's decent. And now we got 60. Okay, we're missing number 3 still.
Well, that's because some of those have sold, so they've already been claimed. So, yeah, you're now down to the perks where you can actually own an original panel art for the book one.
Okay, Super Panel Deal 5. Okay, so we've got some, and that's $60. I guess the other 4 have been claimed. So you get Hero Book 1 full color 6x9, and you get page 132, panel 2. Okay, how do you get a specific panel? Do you cut up the page?
Well, what I did when I originally started it, I started doing full size pages, and it got to the point where it was difficult because my workspace on my desk is very small, so it's very hard to put a whole full page on here. So what I started doing, and it ended up being a good thing, is I started doing the characters and the backgrounds on separate pages, separate panels, and I did them. And it helped me create the animated feel in the fact that the characters were separate from the backgrounds. And so I did a lot of the sketches were on 11 by 7 pieces of Bristol board. I took 11 by 14, just cut them in half. So I was able to do a lot of panels and a lot of the art separately and not instead of just one whole page, which allows me to offer them as original perks. And trust me, I have stacks and stacks of art.
I can believe it. And this is Super Panel Deal number 7. That is from page 93, panel 1.
Yeah, if you when you scroll down further on the content side, it actually shows the whole panels and what they actually look like, full panels. So,
okay, and this is panel 6 one. The panel 6 one is page 35, panel 1. Panel 8 is Super Panel Deal. 8 is page 57, panel 2. We're going down a number. We're going down in page numbers here.
Well, that's because the prices they put the price, they put it in order of price, not in the order that I created them. So yeah.
Oh yeah, because that's 65. We're at $65, not.
Yep.
Yeah, from 6. Okay,
yeah, had I known that ahead of time, I would have numbered them better. But
$75 for panel 3 Super Deal. That's page 73, panel 3. Cool.
Yeah, some of the panels, the original art includes the backgrounds, the full gray washed backgrounds. So those are a little bit more pricey, just because there's more work involved in them. So
yeah. This picture here, what page is that from, or is that like the opening page or something like that?
I think that's actually page, I think 16. If you go up to the page before it, it's where Granny Aura says that he'll be the greatest hero the world's ever known. And then the bottom panel, his mom says, well, I guess that settles it. His name is, and you turn the page and it's Hero.
Cool.
That's what I call his naming page.
And 5 basic hero times 5. So you get 5 books and 5 sketch cards for $90.
Yep.
These are good prices.
Well, thank you. So now you're getting into the panels that have already been claimed. So
yeah,
there was a couple
of and we can't click any of these to find out what panels they were.
Well, actually, I still have the pictures down at the. Well, actually, I do say sold out on them, so you can't see them completely. But these are ones that people have already chosen.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of cool because
the art looks good. The coloring looks awesome on all these pages.
Yeah, it's great. People like this story. They're already snatching up the art. That's really cool.
Ooh, the expensive ones too. Yeah, 125, 100. Nice.
Yeah, those two. One was there were some scenes in the book that just had to be done on the larger page, and the one of the ones I offered was the $100 one, and the 125 one was a pinup that I did that actually was the back cover to the black and white version of the book.
Cool.
I saw something on your online portfolio. A Little Hero the Book of Zeus, is that part 2, 3, or a side story?
It was a side story. I intended to do that as a coloring book, and I set it up in that fashion. I'm still not done with it, but those are like the first, I think, 10 or 12 pages. But yeah, it was supposed to be a little story about Hero and Pudge finding a book that told stories about some of the different gods, and they're reading the stories, and the intention was to keep it very, very, very open, so there wasn't any gray wash or anything, so that when it was printed, when it was published, kids could actually color it. So still not done with it. I laid it out. I actually laid out the idea for 3 stories and just haven't gone back to it to finish it yet. We've actually, Avery and I were talking about making it one of the stretch perks to include a copy of the coloring book if we got to a certain amount. And I don't think we're going to make it that high, but it was an idea.
Yeah, the perks. What were you going to say?
Maybe
whoever?
one day you can do it, man.
Oh, I hope. Well, what's really funny is that there was a backup story that I wanted to tell that I hadn't actually drawn yet. I know what the story is. It's only like 4 or 5 pages, and I plan to include it in a later volume. And when Mike and I sat and talked about it, we realized that it's something that really needs to be in book 1. So I'm actually going to start working on that within the next few weeks. It's going to be an extra couple of story pages added to book 1, because it needs to be there. It's kind of something important that happens that relates to one of the parts of book 1. So I mean, originally the idea was to include it later on, but it really needs to be done in book 1. So this is one of those things that it never ends. Constantly working on it. So.
And here's all the tiers again, just with little coloring behind it and everything in.
Yep. Yeah, John Malin told me that none of that was necessary, but I liked it. I thought it looks good. So yeah, this is where you get to actually see the full illustration. So
yeah, the $50 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have pictures with the word bubbles?
Some of the preview pages do have the word balloons. I think the first 5 pages, and there's a couple at the bottom, but most of the preview pages that I have up there are mainly just the art and the coloring.
Here's the
I tried to stay away from stuff that might spoil stuff, so I mainly wanted to show pages that looked pretty.
Here's some of the sold out stuff. That we didn't get, and examples of the pen and ink hero sketches.
Yep.
Color wash, 9x12s. More perks coming soon. Any stretch goals that it looks like you're all that close to that at the moment, but
yeah, we have some planned, but we're not committing to any just yet. Until if we got closer, we'd start posting some more about them. But we have one crazy stretch goal, in which all the books get upgraded to hardcovers. But I'm not sure if we're going to get there just yet. So
yeah. Let's see, what do we got in the chat here? Oh, they're just talking to each other.
Yeah.
So here's your captions and word bubbles and different things. For Melter, who was asking. Yeah, like I said, the art looks fantastic. Anybody else in the chat got questions, comments, whatever? All right.
I love the high detail you do on these animals here, like I see in your portfolio, with like the turtles and stuff, where all the scalings and stuff.
Oh yeah,
pops out. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that double page spread that's in the portfolio with Hero and Pudge surrounded by the turtles Avery is actually it's the next set of pages that he's going to start coloring. He actually kind of cheated a little bit. He colored page 11 and then he jumped to page 14 and he's saving the double page spread. It's that one is one of the ones that the original it's 17 by a 28, so it's really big. And I would go to conventions and I would have that original art up. And people would ask me, hey, do you have a print of that? And I said, no, I don't like prints. I'm not going to do a print. Well, I made prints for the show that I did after that, and I sold out of just black and white 11 by 17 prints of that scene. And I told Avery, I said, make sure when you're coloring this, we keep in mind that would make a fantastic print. And I can't wait to see what he does with it. So, yeah, that's one where, other than Hero and Pudge, the entire background is done with a quill pen, and that was a direct influence of the Topi book that Avery had turned me on to, and I just was blown away with his art, with the art in the book, and that entire page was done like that on purpose, and I had a great time. I hadn't used a quill pen since high school, but I went overboard, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, John, is that supposed to be Hero?
Yeah, I'm drawing Hero right now.
Well, that's fantastic. When I put out the black and white copy of the book, I included a bunch of pinups by artists that some I had known and some I had commissioned to do their version of Hero, and I've got a variety of ones in there. I especially ask people if they buy the book and they share it with their children. I say, if your children gets inspired and they want to draw a picture, let me know and let me have it. Let me send it to me, and I will include it in the book. Book 2 includes some original art by some of the kids that have gotten copies of book 1 and like the character so much they drew me pictures, and it just blows me away. So, but that's pretty cool. I like your version. Very rough and very strong looking.
What is the thank you. What is the where do you see a Hero sort of ending up?
Oh, I already know how it ends. One of the things I always say is that we're kind of following the Harry Potter template, in the fact that if you've ever read the books or seen the movies, in the first book, it's all fun and games, and by the time they got to the last one, it was all out war. Well, one of our intentions with this book is that the story is going to grow with the readers. Mm-hmm. Book 1 is all kid friendly and book 2 is also kid friendly, but as the books continue, we can notch up the adventure, the action, the threats, because the people that find it, like if somebody's 6 years old, they find book 1 now, by the time we get to the end, book 10, they're going to be in their mid-teens, and they're going to be able to handle more of the adventure and thrills and potential disasters and so forth that we can throw at them. So the idea of the books growing with the readers is something we're definitely focusing on. But I read an article once with Jeff Smith, the guy that created Bone, where he had planned out, he knew exactly what the last page of the Bone epic was going to be, and he actually sketched it out ahead of time before he even started on the first issue. Well, I sat down and I thought up exactly where I want Hero to end, where his story is going to end, and I actually pitched it to Mike. He liked it. I pitched it to my wife, and she says, I can't believe you're going to do that to all those characters. I'm like, I know, but I know exactly how the story's going to end. It's a matter of getting there. And we've actually started to build into the upcoming books. Like book 3, there's a new character that gets introduced in one of the stories who's going to have very long-lasting effects throughout the rest of the story. And we're starting to plant the seeds now in the earlier books for how the series is going to end. And yes, I know exactly where it's going to go. I can't wait to draw those pages. And there's going to be some new characters. There's going to be some old characters that come back. And I just can't wait.
Could you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about the world that he lives in? Without giving away too much. Like, what would it be like?
Well, we do have different. Somebody had asked about magic. There is magic in this world. There is. It's not something that Hero uses. He does have items. These gifts from the gods I mentioned before do have powers and so forth, but they're not like a driving factor. He doesn't get something and all of a sudden he's a super mage or something. But the world, it's kind of almost anything we want it to be. Where the story starts out, it's kind of like, if I had to give it a definition, it would kind of be like Europe, because we do have a China, we do have a Antarctic, we do have a Americas, kind of like Native American type area. We do have a world of Vikings, so it's kind of based in our world, but there is some fantasy elements to it. One of the things that we did in book 3 is we introduced a dragon, and Mike and I talked about it. This was a conversation that went on for several days. Did we want to do a fantasy dragon, like one with wings and claws and so forth, or did we want to base it in reality? And we ended up going with more of a reality type based being, a creature. We took a alligator snapping turtle and drew him huge and called him, and that's their version of what a dragon is. And then I drew a griffin, with an eagle's head and a lion's body, and I said, I like drawing griffins. So now we got to work griffins into the story. But it's one of these things where if I like to draw it, it's going to be in there.
No, that's great. Now this one, I'm sorry, but this picture here that I'm looking at, is this this is the dragon, or is this
Nope, that's an alligator. Just an alligator.
Giant alligator.
Okay.
Yep. I love him. He looks great.
In book 2, Hero meets back up with his brother. Well, to define this species, when Hero comes out of hibernation, and he was born during the winter. When he comes out of his hibernation and he gets named, his oldest sibling is getting ready to go out into the world, and that's his brother Brock. That's the guy that's standing in front of the alligator in that picture. We take a time jump in the first chapter in which we jump forward so that Hero is like the young adult, and he's got 2 twin sisters who are, what his age was, and he's getting ready to go out into the world. So the idea is that within a year, the species of character or creature matures enough to where they're ready to go out into the world and do their thing. So in book 2, he finds his brother Brock, who he hasn't seen since he was a baby, and he's telling the story of what happened to him after he left home, and this alligator plays a very pivotal role in his story. And so it had to be a big splash page.
Cool.
D Love says, Andrew, is there any animated movies or cartoons that inspired you to create Hero?
Secret of NIMH is probably one of the biggest ones, but I watched a lot of cartoons with the kids. It was one of the things we loved to do. Batman the Animated Series was one of me and Mike's favorite shows to watch. So, Secret of NIMH is probably the biggest influence, but I pull from so many other sources. I can't pinpoint any one specific. Disney cartoons, absolutely. A lot of stuff by Don Bluth, a lot of stuff by I'm forgetting, I'm blanking, I'm horrible with names. The guy, Studio Ghibli, for the Japanese or Chinese guy, I can't remember if he's Chinese or Japanese, does like Princess Mononoke and so forth. I know everybody's probably, there's people out there probably screaming at me his name, but those are all those were all influences, because I was very much a one of those parents who had to know exactly what their kids were doing, what they were watching on TV, what they were reading, what kind of music they were listening to. So I had to engulf myself in what they were involved in. And so, yes, I did read the Twilight books when my daughter was a teenager. Yes, I went and saw all the Twilight movies with her. That's one of the things Avery picks on me about, but it's just, it's
the Overlander.
Yeah, I had to be involved in all that stuff. So actually, the Harry Potter series, the funny thing about that is when those books became popular, the kids were not of the age yet where they were reading on their own. So we started what we call chapter time. So every night before bed, we'd sit down and we'd read a chapter of the book. And by the time we got to book 3, I think the kids were already reading on their own. They were actually reading the chapters to us. And everybody in the house had finished book 7 and I was still on book 5. So everybody had read ahead of me. And one of the best parts about that story is my kids became very avid readers. They love reading, and they did it on their own. They didn't need us to encourage them to do it. But the bad part was they really never got into comics. They weren't big into comics because they were more into reading than they were into the visual medium. So yeah, it's one of those give or take things. I've always told the kids, if you can read, you can learn anything. And yeah, they're good kids.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yep.
Yes, anybody who has any...
you can get into the books later. You can do all that stuff, but you got that foundation of actual reading chapter books is fantastic for kids.
Yeah, because I was never I was never a good reader, especially in high school. I told my parents how many times I did a book report on a book I never read, and my mom's like, "I can't believe you graduated from high school." I said, "I know, it's horrible. I did a book report on Tom Sawyer, and I never read the book, and I still passed the class."
Kids are different. So I mean, books like this, books like the books that you're making right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some kids are just not going to. They're going to be stubborn, and they're not going to get into chapter books. Period. And this is going to be able to get them, hooked on reading.
Well, actually, when I started this book, I had a friend of mine whose wife was an elementary school teacher. I'm pretty sure it was kindergarten. And I had done mini ash cans of chapter 1. And he asked me if I could make several copies. So I made like 20 copies. I hand folded and stapled all of them. And she let her kids read them in class, and they read them together. And she was teaching them, sequential art, following, panel to panel and reading the story, and the kids loved it. And I asked her, I said, if you would just have them draw me a picture. And she said, I'll do you one better. So she got one of those pieces of paper, which has a block at the bottom for a drawing, but then it has the lines at the top where you have to write something. So each of the kids drew me a picture of what their favorite scene was or their favorite character. And then they actually wrote what they liked about the book. And I've got like 15 or 20 of these papers around here somewhere. I know I have them, but they haven't been seen yet because they were in full color. The kids used crayons, so it was unfair to publish these things in the original release of the book because it was black and white and gray, and it took away from it. But now that we're doing color, I'm going to try to pull those out so they're included. But that to me was absolutely fantastic. A whole bunch of elementary age kids really got into the book, and I got to help them not only draw, but write and read. So it's fantastic. It's a great feeling. So
Okay. One, chat, if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to do so. Andrew. However, Willie does have a question at the moment. Does Andrew plan on, do you plan on branding your comics, Misfit Comics, as a company? Will you be looking for artists and writers for other books in the future?
We are a registered company, an LLC, Misfit Corner Comics LLC. Right now, we're focused on Hero, but Avery and I have talked about other projects. He really, really, really wants to bring back Cornerstone, and I think his art style would be fantastic for it. But it's all a matter of time, and it's really a matter of time. You got to have the time in order to focus on something else, especially something where you don't necessarily have any backing as of yet. But it's definitely something we're looking into. So
Cool. We have Good Dog Press in the chat. Hello, Manny. He's all the way over in Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
He's a part of our community. He has his own channel as well. He's usually on around this time, but he just got back from church, he's saying. So
Excellent.
So, anybody else have any other questions or anything for?
Definitely, if you want to promote this book further, go and hit up Manny. He has a good channel with a lot of good people on there, and try to go as many places as you can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think Rick mentioned him earlier, so I'll definitely be reaching out.
Yeah. What else? Thinking of saying. Okay. Well, you're
the campaign.
Pardon?
I was asking how long the campaign is running for.
How
left do we have?
I was very bad. I launched it on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and one of my reasons for that was I wanted to get people out there to see it. And it's in my mind, I thought it would be easier to start the campaign and get people to see it and follow it. And it runs through, I think, December 23rd. But we had intended to extend it for an extra 30 days. And when I was on last night with the Fan Speak guys, one of their criticisms was you launched this at a horrible time. Right in the middle of November, December is a horrible time. Nobody has money. Nobody's out there looking. And to be honest, it's a learning thing. And if the campaign isn't successful, we're definitely going to bring it back. It's just one of those things that we're gonna get it. We're gonna do it till we get it right. Let's put it that way.
You keep on doing it. I mean, even if it does not fund, or even if you don't fund the way you want it to the tune of the amount that you want it to.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already going out there and promoting it, have grown your community, have grown your base, and the next time you do it, it's going to be more successful regardless.
Exactly. I kept telling Avery, I said, if we can get some more people to see it, it'll help us the next time. So
yeah. Willie asked, have you been on John Malin's channel?
Twice, actually. I was on his channel before we launched it, and then a few days or about a week after we launched it. John's wonderful, and the fact that he does, very much what you guys do and help promote other people's stuff is just blows me away. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I do this every Saturday now. I bring on one person. Next week I have on Apollo. The week after that, I've got one not from IndieCron, one actually from Kickstarter. A friend on Facebook, he's got one called Tribulation Force coming out on Kickstarter, so I'm going to have him on. So I'm starting to actually get a lineup of people for different weeks.
Excellent.
Apollo was actually supposed to be on this week, but he was just getting home from somewhere, and it was just a little bit too late that he'd get on and all that. So I got you on. Otherwise, I would have had you on next week. And you've got 15 days left on your campaign. So, and as we were looking at earlier, he has easy perks. $20 perk buy-in. That's 160-page book, I think it was.
162. Yep. Well, there's more. We have some pinups and so forth. So right this second, it's 176 pages. But if we're able to get to the goal, I'm definitely going to add more. So
guys, for $20, 176 pages. This is easy. It's only $7 shipping. You cannot go wrong with this book. you know. And then there's other great perks, you know. At $30 you get a sketch, right? And then 35 you get
Well, with all the perks, you get an original sketch. It's the $30 one where you get a colored sketch.
okay, and there's what, 50 of those?
Yep.
50 in total. So, you know, you can't go wrong with this, folks. Cannot go wrong with getting a $20 perk or $30 perk, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
this is
that's
definitely one of the best deals I've seen so far yet on IndieCron. I mean,
Well,
you get so much content for so little money.
I have a very bad habit of lowballing myself, especially with my art. I tend to, in my mind, if I have a piece of art and I sell it to you for $10, in my mind, what happens is you go and you show it to somebody and you say, check out this original piece of art I got. And they're going to go, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then you say, yeah, and he sold it to me for $10. And just, it's like doubly awesome. And my friends tell me that I lowball myself so often that it's definitely to a detriment to myself. But sometimes I don't care. I enjoy drawing these characters. I enjoy sharing art. And if I can give you a piece of art to go with it, it's just so much better. Mm-hmm. John, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. And anybody that's listening right now and that wants to go and back Hero, the next person that does that at the $30 tier or above, I'll send this to for free.
Very cool.
There you go. 2 pieces of art for $30.
Make sure you scan it and send me a copy.
Not at all. Original only. No scan.
Ah!
Cat says, I feel somebody's talking to me, but my name wasn't used. Oh, well.
That's how you game the system there.
Yeah. You know, anybody getting this, you know, you just seen John draw the character. Well, not so much draw, but ink it. I didn't notice him drawing it until he was almost done it.
I had the camera off when I was sketching so people can't see my messy lines.
Well, come on, you got to show that. It's part of the process.
I just saw like doodles like, what is John drawing? And I was like, oh, he's drawing Hero. Nice.
I was going to say, Manny or anybody who's got the link wants to jump in the panel, feel free. And anybody who wants to ask questions or comment anything about Hero, feel free. You know, as we said, the thing is doing excellent. It's excellent buy for $20. You know, I just think I got to do it. You know, put up. Well, it's a little bit more than that for me because I'm Canadian with the exchange rate, but still, even with you know, that's $27 American. It only works out to like maybe 40 at best. Canadian.
Oh, really? Okay.
Less than that, you know.
Well, do it. Then you're gonna get John's drawing.
Well, that's the 30.
Rick Piper.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the $20 one, not the 30. So, like it says here, $27 Canadian. You know, so you add another $7 on top of that. So that's 34, and then the exchange rate for that, you know, $7.
34 for 162 pages plus.
That's right.
Yeah. Plus, you know, so you're probably about 37, you know, with the exchange rate, if that. So $37 for 176 pages for us Canadians. Well, Rizzy Lee is here from Australia. Hey, good dog. How are you? Manny.
Hey, Manny.
Can you hear us? Manny is in the panel.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
My microphone was muted. It costs us $23 to ship artwork to Australia. Just found that out today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question there. Are you shipping internationally besides Canada?
I have added some international options for some of them, so especially the newer ones. Let's see here. Now that I'm actually getting people interested in international, so
There are a few Aussies that always follow John and Rick here, so they might.
Yeah, Joshua, Risey, who have both been in the chat. Risey, if you want to jump on, I just sent you a link. Heck, Kat, if you want to even jump on, you've got the link in the big group that I do. John, what's John using a white pen for?
I'm putting little floating, glowing things in this magical forest background.
Oh, jelly pen.
yeah, those white gel pens can be awesome if they actually work properly.
Yep. You gotta buy a big box, and then as soon as they stop working, chuck them and stop fidgeting with them.
Yeah, I have a tendency whenever I try to use them, they either come out fantastic or they look like crap.
Mm-hmm.
So I can never win with them. So
Yeah, I had one that was right out the box bad. It was either that or it was probably the black ink or something, because it wouldn't settle on the black ink, but it would settle on like anything that was alcohol based marker color that wasn't black.
oh, for a long time I always used the whiteout pen, your regular old whiteout pen, but that line is so much thicker, and sometimes it doesn't give you the desired effect. And with Hero, what I ended up doing, I didn't know how to properly do it until the middle of book 2, but digitally add a stroke around the characters, add that white line around the characters, and for the black and white version of the book, that helped out greatly because it allows you to separate the characters from the background. But once Avery did the coloring, I went back and removed the stroke from a lot of the panels because there was a obvious separation between the characters and the background when it's fully colored. But when it's black and white and gray, sometimes it's necessary. But when I do illustrations, I tend, if I'm going to add a white line around something, I always use a Sharpie. And a lot of people will tell me, no, don't do that because the color will fade in time and it'll look horrible. But at the time you do it, sometimes it looks fantastic, especially if you're doing rain effects with a Sharpie. I mean, not a Sharpie, whiteout pen is what I'm talking about. I'm actually holding one in my hand and calling it a Sharpie. That's just how stupid I can be sometimes. But
any questions or any comments, Manny?
I gotta do something first. I had to do that first.
Okay,
No, I'm good.
no problem.
Do you have an editor for your book?
I do. He has recently asked me to remove his name from the project because of my association with Comicsgate, and I kind of knew that was going to happen. So I told him I respect his wishes and not going to talk about it.
Okay.
Is he an art editor or is he just a text editor?
Neither, actually.
Okay.
He's in IT, and I met him many years ago at a convention. He bought a copy of one of my earlier books, read it on his flight back to where he lived, and contacted me and said, "Hey, you really need an editor. You're a horrible speller." And I said, "If you can help me, I'd be greatly appreciated." And he's been with me ever since. And but in my recent coming out, I found it really. I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I've been following Comicsgate and a lot of the stuff that's going on, and I full-heartedly agree with a lot of the positions that Comicsgate takes and supports. I mean, I don't want to force political or social agendas on my readers. I respect the fans, even if they don't like my work. I'm not going to attack anybody. If somebody comes out and says, "Oh, this is the biggest pile of crap I've ever read," it's like, well, I appreciate you reading it. You know, I'm not going to attack you. And I think comics should be fun and should be for everybody. And those are some of the main principles of Comicsgate that I stand behind 100%. And his argument with me was that, you know, perception is reality. And if people perceive it to be a racist, sexist movement, then that's what it is. And I couldn't support that. I couldn't step away from something that I see as a positive force, a positive movement, because a whole bunch of people want to scream and yell and say it's something that it's not. And but I respect his wishes, and that's it.
Yeah. Who else is on the? There's something. Who else is on the project with you?
My son helps me co-write it, and Avery colored it, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
A force of three.
Can you tell us anything about them, or? Well, obviously you can tell us stuff about your son, but
well, yeah. Mike's 25 now. When we originally came up with the idea, he was 16 or 17. I don't remember exactly, but it was 2011, so I should be able to do the math. But you know, he works at a movie theater. He's an associate manager there and absolutely loves it. So he's very much into he never got into comics. He was more into the manga and to the anime, and he and I both share a love of movies as well as Legos. Don't ask me where that started from, but I mean, everybody loves Legos, right? And he helps me with a lot of the stories and so forth, a lot of the ideas, and a lot of the he actually in book 1 he has a big claim to fame. In the book 1 we have what we call the story within a story. During their Hero and Pudge are going from one place to another, and while they're on this journey through this big forest, Pudge says, "Hey, do you know any stories? You know, something we can talk about?" He says, "Well, yeah, let me tell you a story my dad told me." And he tells what we call a story within a story. And Avery did a great job of separating the colors so that you can tell which part's the story and which part's real. And in the story, he tells about this god of the forge that makes a weapon that cannot be defeated. It's like this ultimate sword. And when I was pitching the idea to Mike, I actually remember exactly where we were. We were driving in the car, and I'm telling him the idea for the story. And I said, and then he called the sword. He gave it a name, and he called it. And then Mike screamed out, "The big fluffy bunny." And I just laughed my butt off. It was so funny. I said, "Mike, that's got to go in the book." So when you're actually reading the particular story, he gets to that point. He actually calls it the big fluffy bunny, and Mike's like, "That's my line. That's what I added. I love it." But yeah, that's his help. He helps me with research. Matter of fact, when I mentioned earlier that I drew a griffin and I really liked it, I turned to him and I said, "Hey, you need to go find me a story within Greek mythology or mythology, whatever, in which there's a griffin, so that we can use that as part of the hero story." So, and that's what he's working on his spare time when he's not at work working a full-time job. So
cool. Let's see. Ignition's in the chat. Hey, Ignition, Todd.
Hey, Todd.
His real name's Todd. If you you should have a you should have a link in the big thing if you want to pop in the panel. Manuel Correa is saying, "Rick inspires me. I am now eating dill pickle Pringles." I'm glad I could inspire Manny. Eat dill pickle Pringles.
You got to explain why I'm doing that, Rick.
Oh, well, that's because I have snack videos.
Yeah, Rick did a snack video where he ate some pickled flavored chips, so that's what I bought. And I was like, "Oh, let me try that." It's not bad. It actually tastes like dill pickles. Rick.
I know of their existence, but that sounds horrible.
It's not bad. It's actually not bad. And I'm getting scoldings from Skunk Girl.
They're better if, well, I'm going to just shield for Circle K. I just go to Circle K all the time. Because they're, they're where I get my gas. So they have like, these kettle chips. So their dill pickle ones are pretty good, but I usually just get the jalapenos.
Ooh, the jalapeno one is good.
Yeah.
All right, we better get off that subject because somebody's going to scold us, Rick.
Yeah. What can you tell us about your artist there, Andrew? Not your artist. I mean, your colorist. Sorry.
Oh,
You're the
Avery.
artist.
Avery and I both went to high school together. He actually graduated a couple years behind me. But he has gone on and done some professional work. He did some work for Image. He worked on a book. He was uncredited in the first book, The Surreal Adventures of Edgar Allan Poe. He did some work on book 1 for their Shadowline imprint. And then he did the illustration for book 2. And he's also done work for Heavy Metal Magazine and some other. He actually did he hates it when I mention it, but he did a kid-friendly book from Image Comic called what is the name of the book? Bruce, the Blue Spruce. It was a book that Jim Valentino drew, and he did the coloring for it. So,
Oh wow.
What's so funny is there were 4 of us in high school, and we all went in completely different directions. I went the route of father and husband and did independent comics. Avery was the one who went into professional stuff. He also does a lot of work with White Wolf Gaming. He did a lot of illustrations for gaming magazines and so forth. Then we had Todd, which was another friend of ours, who went into animation and did work for Cartoon Network. And then we had Romel, who went to work full time and spent a lot of his time as a ladies' man. So he never got into the art as we did. But it's so funny how we all went in completely different directions, but we're still in constant contact. We're always talking to each other. We meet up whenever we can, but we all went in different directions, and it just so happens that Avery and I are now working together on a project. So it's very cool.
Yeah. As Todd's asking whether Rizzy's set up yet. Yeah, he's sort of set up. He's in my chat here.
I had myself muted because my cats are stuck in the room with me. We've got it. My mum's got the dog over and they're meowing to get out. Sorry about that. Just thought I'd explain.
No problem.
Good to talk to you too, Andrew, and thanks for the link.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, what is your name? Do you have a Twitter?
Yes. It's if you look up Misfit Corner Comics, that's the easiest way to find me.
Actually, the easiest way right now is to go into the description.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does have
a message, and then I got to get out of here right now. I got to go pick up my wife. But let me know the address of the next person that backs your project, and I'll ship this out to them immediately.
That sounds great, man. Appreciate it.
All right. So I'll see you guys later, and thanks for having me on, Rick. And it was good talking to you. And see you later, guys.
Bye, John.
See you, John.
See you, John.
Do you guys think it'd be unethical for me to go in and make my own pledge for a perk in order to get that original page?
Yeah.
I could I think I have one of Mike's credit card numbers around here somewhere. I could do that. Have him ship it to Mike. Yeah.
You said.
That's awesome. Oh no, we gotta call you Andrew Gaming John System.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, hey Todd. Todd's in here now.
What's going on, guys?
Hey Todd.
Not much. We're just talking with Andrew. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name. From Misfit Corner Comics, who is doing Hero Book 1.
It's so much easier just to say Andrew. My last name, nobody ever says it right when the first time. and that's okay. I've accepted it, but it's a Charper. It doesn't sound like Charper, but that's what it is.
So I would have put the I in there. So I'm happy
Yeah,
that you said it first.
It's almost like the I is silent and the AR at
Okay,
the end
cool.
is an ER. Charper.
Sharper.
Yeah, it's
Charper.
It's Czechoslovakian in origin, and
Ooh.
they kind of the American they changed it a little bit. So
Cool.
we're pretty much the only ones down here in Florida. Up in Iowa, there's actually more Charpers. There's teachers and there's plumbers, and that's where my dad's originally from. But down in Florida, if you look up Charper, you either find me or you find my dad, and that's it.
Cool.
And I came in late, but do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. Misfit Corner Comics.
Hey.
I post daily videos there, and usually a drawing video. I try to do at least one drawing video a day, and I also post up videos that me and my son make. For like today, I was at Target, and they had Fortnite toys, so I had to make a video about that. And then tomorrow, Mike bought one of the new Spider-Man Lego sets, so I turned that into a speed build video, which will be up tomorrow. So
Cool.
yep.
Yes.
And then we do live streams as well, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7:30 Eastern time. Avery and I do a drawing while he's coloring, and we just sit around and chit chat about comics.
Cool.
So yes, go check out Misfit Corner Comics. We'd love to have more people come check it out.
And I'm doing it right
Yes.
now, and I just
All right.
subscribed.
Cool.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you got 254 subscribers.
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
So I got a question.
Sure.
If you haven't just reached 250 subscribers, basically within probably the last few days, I would think, are you going to be doing some sort of giveaway for the 250 mark?
Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to, huh?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Why? I
Do it
love
at
giving.
500. Do it at 500. Make it special.
Oh,
Well, you do it
okay.
at the 250 and you do it at the 500.
Make
yeah,
it a
500
stretch.
eat butter.
Well, we've been slowly gaining followers on this. When I started in January, I had 9 followers, and they were mostly like my mom, my sister. So we've slowly gained, and and somebody asked me once. They said, "You have so much." We have over 800 videos up right now, and somebody asked me once, "Says you have so much content. Why do you not have more people?" I said, "Well, I figured they'll find us eventually, and then when they do, we'll have lots and lots and lots of stuff for them to check out." So.
Yeah, that sounds like me. I've got over 230, almost 300 videos.
Yeah.
I do 2 live streams a day, Monday through Friday, 1 on Saturdays, none on Sundays.
846 videos, people. Cool.
Yeah, so
And they're all crap. And I'm just kidding.
yes,
There's a lot of videos in there where we're experimenting and just playing. Like when I don't know why, but my son got me hooked on the Lego BrickHeads. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these things at all, but yeah, well, I started doing stop motion builds for those where I would put one piece down, take a picture, put another piece down, take a picture, and stream them all together and speed them up. And I just love the heck out of doing that. So there's a lot of those in there, but it's all I'm also addicted to steelbook cases. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with steelbook cases for Blu-ray movies. They do those. Best Buy, Best Buy does a lot of them where they release exclusive steelbook cases for movies, and if you put out a movie and you put it in a steelbook case, there's a really good chance I'm gonna buy it. So I do reviews of steelbook case movies all the time, and every now and then there's comics get in there, movies get in there, just stuff we like to do.
cool. D-Love asks, it wants me to ask you, is there a romantic interest in Hero? For, I guess, Hero?
Actually, I've created the first his first love, we talked about this earlier, his Gwen Stacy as it is, and she will be introduced in book 3. And I just can't say anything more because I spoiled too much. I have big plans for this character.
Oh, that's good. It's always good to have big plans.
Yep. She's one of those characters that I drew one time and just fell in love with her. I think she's fantastic. She's a great character. And as we worked on the story that she's involved in, her character grew and grew, and there was more aspects of her that we added to the story. And it's just, there are some characters that I've introduced in the book so far that if I could do a spin-off and focus just on that character, I'd be super happy. I would do, a whole nother graphic novel about of individual characters, just because I enjoy drawing them and I enjoy the characters themselves. So,
well, you want to know something? That's the great thing about owning your own comic book company. You can do that.
That's right. Yeah, but the bad part about it is there's not enough time in the day for me to do everything I want to do.
Well, that's why once you get popular enough, you hire somebody else to do it.
Well, that's Avery's already telling me. He says, I'm only going to color book 2. You're going to have to hire somebody else to color book 3. And I said, okay. Because there's so many other things he wants to do as well. So
you hire him at a good page rate.
Well, I'm already paying him. So yeah, he kind of kicked himself because when my job went away and I got that severance check, I wrote him out a check for the entirety of book 1. And he pretty much, it was gone within a month or two. But with book 2, I'm paying him per page. So as he's finishing it, I'm cutting him a check off the business account and paying him. So it's kind of like, it's not really extra money, but it's helping him in the long run because it's a secondary source that he can get as he's working. So
yeah.
And I told him I would have done that from the very beginning if he wanted it, but once again, it's a learning process. We're learning how to do this. So
yeah, for sure. So anybody else in the chat with any questions, comments, or anything for Andrew? Anybody on the panel with any questions or comments for Andrew?
I think Todd's going to save them for tomorrow, right, Todd?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Oh, you're on Todd's channel tomorrow night?
Yep,
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Cool.
I'm
Nice.
creating the event right now so I can post about it throughout the whole day.
No,
love
I
the
did-
sense
I
of
did-
enthusiasm there, Todd.
Yeah. What's going on here, Todd? Holding out on Rick. Come on. Gotta help Rick out.
Well, I mean,
No,
I have a lot of questions, but I mean, tomorrow we're going to get sort of into like process type questions, but I can ask some questions now. Does your character have, like I remember you talked about siblings, right? He has siblings and
Yep.
they're heroes in their own right. But he has sort of a legacy or something he has to live up to, because I remember you talking about a sort of a grandmother type character who
Yep.
says this character is going to be a hero.
Well,
Right.
one of the things we establish in book 1 is that there's a character by the name of Granny Aura, which,
Aura, right.
as you could probably
Stands
get,
for
it's short for Oracle. Yes.
Yeah.
When she helps Hero's mom name all of her children, and she does it by, she kind of looks into their future, looks into their personalities, and kind of helps her choose a name. A good example, Brock, his oldest brother, the one that's big and strong. When she originally looked into his eyes and so forth, she said he's going to be as big as a house and as strong as I'm forgetting the own word. He was going to be big and he was going to be strong. And the idea, what was it? What's the actual words that I used? I can't remember now. So something like
brawny?
he's going to be as strong as a rock, or no, he's going to be strong as a rock and as big as a house. So mom named him. Okay, well, she combined the two and said his name's Brock because he's
nice.
and with his two twin sisters that were born after him, their names are Mischief and Mayhem. But it's shortened. They call them Missy and May. But she looked into their eyes and said Mischief and Mayhem, and that's how they were named. But there's a story behind each of the children's names. In book 3, he's introduced to his oldest sister, whose name is Lulu, and I don't know if I want to tell the whole story, but in the first chapter of book 3, it's a flashback to where Hiro's mom and dad first meet, and it's not going to be what anybody expects. It's actually in the middle of a war. They're soldiers in a war, and they meet on the battlefield. And one of the rally cries for the group of characters is when the head guy says for liberty, and the people chant, "We're united," and the mom and dad look at each other, and the mom says, "For love," and she turns and looks at him and says, "We're undefeatable," or we're, oh crap, I'm forgetting my words. I got these words, they're in my mouth and I can't. But the thing is, liberty, united, love, unstoppable. That's what it is, and that's where the name comes from. Lulu, Lulu, and that was when Lulu's born. Granny Aura says, she looks into her and she says, I can see she's going to be a leader of people, and she's going to be very strong, and she's going to be a symbol, and so forth. And the mom says, well, what should we name her? Says, well, your wedding vows are exactly what she stands for. And that their wedding vows were liberty, united, love, unstoppable. And so that's where she gets her name Lulu from. And it's also the company that we published the black and white version of Hero through was Lulu.
So my question would be: is there anyone in his family that is bad?
Damn, that's such a good question. We have a bad guy that we introduce in book 1, and we explore a little bit more about him in book 2. And Mike and I have teased on whether or not there's a relationship between Hero and this bad guy. And we've kind of started building into an idea that might just be the case. That might just be exactly what's happening here. Very much of a Star Wars type of thing, but not father and son. Definitely not father and son. But in the flashback story in book 3, we kind of tease the fact that the bad guy is in that story,
right?
And we kind of hint at it, but we kind of hint at it to where it's right in your face. Where if you don't realize it, you're going to be kicking yourself later on, because we're kind of deliberate about it. I mean, you got to remember we are making a book intended for children, so I can't put too much subtext in there. I got to kind of it's kind of got to be written on the page, but there's a twist that we're not going to explore probably for another book or 2, but yes, most definitely.
Now, how about, is there anyone that we might see sort of like ancestral, maybe whether it's spirit form or some, is there any weight to his destiny from the past?
I don't think we have anything specific for that. One of the things that Granny Aura says is that she sees in his future, it's written in the stars, that he will go on many great adventures. He will see things and do things nobody else has done, and he will be the greatest hero the world has ever known. And one of the things we're going to establish, we really don't dive into it very much, is that the world that they live in, there's lots of heroes. There are heroes all throughout time, all throughout history, all throughout the different lands. There are heroes. As a matter of fact, in book 3, when we go to China, there are the 7 legendary warriors who are part of the story. So there are a lot of heroic characters in the story. We're putting a lot of weight on this one character by saying he's going to be the greatest of all of them. but we have an idea of exactly how we're building up to that. And one of the things that I've told Mike, that it's going to be a super, super huge challenge to draw from the artistic standpoint, is the fact that almost every single character that we're going to introduce throughout these books is going to be in the end story. No matter how small the character is, they're going to be involved. And that doesn't really tease what's going to happen. But like if you're reading book 1 and there's a character that's introduced and he's only in 2 or 3 pages, he's going to be part of the story in the end. And I'm so looking forward to drawing these things. So,
any chance we might see any kind of spin-off or a one shot of a sort of sub character or smaller character that appears?
It's definitely possible. I try to, in book 1, there's an epilogue, and there's a 4-page epilogue, which kind of sets up something else that's going to happen in the future. And then I had to do an 8-page extra story. I kind of considered it, like when you go see a Marvel movie and you've got the scene at the end of the movie, there's a little extra something that teases. We set up the extra 8-page story to be a teaser for what comes next. And we kind of followed that template into the book 2. Well, in book 3, there's going to actually be several of them, because there's so many seeds that we're planting that's going to be involved. And there's a very, very good chance that we may eventually expand on this. One of the things that I thought was a fantastic idea is that in book 1, when Hero is telling this story within a story to Pudge, he's talking about mythical characters. He's talking about a god of the forge. He mentions a jester by the name of Loki and a trickster and so forth. And we actually expand on that story, because in the story it's taken as a tale, a myth, something that gets passed down from generation to generation, because it was a story told by his dad, and it's one that he really liked. Well, in book 2, we actually show you those characters as they are now and make you realize that they're actually really part of the story. The story he told was something that is actually going to be pivotable, is going to be important in a future storyline. So we've got all these different things we want to weave in together, and so it's almost like saying, I'm not far-fetched when I say every character, every scene has importance, because we're building to something. We're building to something else. So if you get introduced to a character and they're just there and they say hi and they tell you, hey, I'm going off to go do something, that's a potential story to tell, and something that may affect something in the future. So
I saw that John was drawing your character. Are you going to put any fan art in the book or anything like that?
I absolutely will.
Oh, good.
Actually, you know what? Hold on a second.
I want to draw your character, the Archer character.
Hawkeye? Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, I know you got your overarching bad guy for the whole 10 things, but is he going to have to face like a specific bad guy for each title, each book?
Maybe not a specific one, but there's definitely bad characters that are in the story. In book 1, there's actually 5 that you get introduced to: 3 wolves, a horned beast, and the snake character. In book 2, I'm not going to tell you. I can't tell you. That spoils the surprise. But there's other ones that are introduced. Hero doesn't really know it in the first book, but he's being hunted. He's being sought out by the bad guy, because the bad guy thinks that this character, simply based on his name, is going to stop him from taking over the world. And that's his goal. That's what he wants to do. The bad guy, he doesn't even learn the bad guy's name till book 2. Which I can tell you because I've told people about it before, but his name is the Rat King. And he has an army that he's putting together, and it's prophesized it'll cover the world like a plague. So a little on the nose there, I know, rats and plague, but you know what? Once again, talking about
Okay,
stories for children.
Just with that name, I'm not sure whether anybody else will remember it. But is he backed up by the Ninja Turtles?
No. Well, actually, I will spoil one little thing. He's not even a rat.
Okay.
Okay, I won't tell you how he got the name or where it came from. That's for a future book. But he's not even a rat.
Well, the Rat King wasn't even a rat.
Well, that's true too. That's true too.
What are some of your influences, by the way, Andrew? Give me some influences story-wise. Some of your story influences.
Harry Potter was probably a big one in the structure of the story and how we were setting it up. But I mean, Mike and I are big fans of movies, so we have a lot of references to movies and so forth. I mean, in book 1, there's a reference to The Hobbit, to The Lord of the Rings. There's other references throughout. Greek mythology is in there. We throw in some Norse mythology as well. I thought I'd throw a lot of people for a loop by throwing Loki into a story about Greek mythology, but you know what? This is our story. We can do whatever we want. So,
yeah.
But I lost track. I forgot what I was going to say next. But needless to say, when it comes to influences, there's comic book influences, there's movies influence, there's animation influences. This book, when it's done, when all 10 books are done, is going to be Mike and I's love letter to all the things that we enjoy about pop culture, from animation to movies to comics, just everything we like. We're putting into this. We're putting the ideas into this story. So we're trying to keep it original and make it original, even though you're going to see some references to it, to other things. But it's like at the beginning of book 2, he's running out of a jungle carrying this rock with gems on it, and all of a sudden tree frogs jump out of the forest and start throwing darts and spears and bows and arrows. They don't throw the bows, but they shoot arrows at him. And it's kind of our little nod to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So some people will pick that up, some people won't, but needless to say, it was something that we thought would be fun to do, so we threw it in there.
Cool.
Now, my other question would be, has your campaign moved any in the last 2 days?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No. Last time I checked it earlier, it was still at the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like you have book 1 in your hand.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is actually the black and white version.
Oh.
Like I said, this is. Yeah, I know. It's,
No. No. Go ahead, show me.
But what I was going to show you is the pinups in the back. There's several pinups in here that I did. The story behind the pinups is
How big is book 1?
well, actually, book 1 ended up with all the extra stuff. It was over 200 pages because I mean, we had preview pages for book 2 and so forth in there. But this right here, this is the very first image of Hero that I ever drew. This is the one that I imagined when I.
That's about 9 years ago, right?
Yeah, when we 7 years ago, 2011. Yep. Okay. This is right after Charlie and I. Charlie's my dog. Right after we saw the raccoon jump out of the dumpster, I started getting this idea, and this is the image that I ended up drawing. And what's so funny is in the process portion of the book, I talk about the fact that I forgot to draw his tail, and that's kind of important. And I forgot to draw his tail numerous times during the book. But this was the original idea that I did. But what I wanted to show you is I have these different pinups that I did.
Oh, wow.
What I did in order for me to finish this book, I turned down commissions. I turned down paid work. I said, I've got to focus on this one book, and that's it. Well, for Christmas one year, my parents and my family decided, a lot of my family lives here in town. We decided nobody was going to go out and buy anything for anybody. We were all going to make stuff for everybody, which for me as an artist, that's fantastic. It saves me a whole bunch of money. But I couldn't deviate from working on Hero. So what I said is, I'm going to draw you a picture. I'm going to give it to you as a Christmas gift, but it's going to be Hero related. This one right here is Hero, and it's Peter Pan inspired. You got the alligator in the background. He's got the Peter Pan helmet hat, and there's Tinkerbell. My sister is a huge fan of Peter Pan, so this was her gift for Christmas. Was this pinup? I was able to give her an original piece of art as a gift for Christmas, but I kept it Hero related. This one right here, I have an aunt who likes doorways for some reason. So I drew Hero and Pudge standing in front of this doorway. This was inspired by something from Lord of the Rings, I think. I think is where I got the original idea. My parents are Jaguar fans, so I did this one for them with a Jaguar behind them. I don't know. This may end up being a story or something, but I have no idea. This one was for my wife's grandmother, who at the time had 7 great grandchildren. So the ladybugs, and this one I actually colored the ladybug, so the original actually looks kind of cool. But in order for me to do these pinup, this is my aunt had a dog named Yusa. I drew him as a barbarian riding on top of a crab, and she had a bird that I drew in it. And I actually, the year before, I designed her 3 dogs as characters in the Hero world. They're actually the pirates that Hero is going to meet in book 4. And this one right here was one that I did for my mother-in-law. When the kids were younger, my mother-in-law wrote a series of stories about a snake named Percy and a lizard. I forgot the lizard's name. So this was a drawing that I did for her, and it's kind of like remember in Bone, the Great Cow Race? Well, this was the Great Reptile Race. It was kind of I don't know if this image will ever happen in the book, but it was in order to do a pinup that I could give to somebody as a gift. But here's where it gets really cool. Not that these aren't cool, but these are artists that I have met over the years. Some of them I've known for many years. I asked them to do Hero sketches. And this one here is Harold Jeanette, who's a fantastic animator. This is the very first commission I ever got of Hero. This is from back in 2012. This is right after I came up. The only thing he had to go on was that original image that I did, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of like a pirate scarab sword. And he actually put claws on him, which wasn't in the image, but I thought that was so cool. And then this is another friend of mine by the name of Rich Bernatovich, who I've actually done work with him on his series Sentinels. Before he did this one, he does very awesome kid-friendly type drawings. And then I met some artists through conventions. This was Cindy Foster and Jeremy Hobbs. They have a comic series that they do that has griffins in it, and they did this sketch for me at Tampa Bay. I thought that was fantastic, and they forgot to draw Hero's tail as well, but that's all right. This one is Luciano Vecchio, who you guys may or may not have heard his name before. He is currently one of the artists on Marvel's Ironheart series, Riri Williams. He's doing some of the art, some of the pages for that. He and Rich Bernatovich did Sentinels together. And when he did this sketch for me at New York Comic Con in 2016, he sent me a preliminary of what the sketch looked like, and I showed it to my wife, and she goes, "Oh, wow, it's Hero all grown up." I said, "Yeah, it's very cool." I mean, I would rather have an artist do what their interpretation of Hero other than try to copy mine. And this is an example of something utterly fantastic. And I actually own this original page. I bought it from him. It's just so cool. But that's just a fantastic one. And then let's see what else. Chad Ciccone. He's an illustrator that works for Action Labs. I've known him for many, many years. I know Chad, yeah. He did this kind of more mature looking, scary version, which is awesome. This one is Francis Bonnett. He does a what is the name of his graphic novel? He does a graphic novel series. It's a webtoon, web comic strip about the Three Little Pigs and fairy tales. I think when I spoke to him originally, he was telling me that it's something that he did with his daughter, I think. But I mean, I go and collect sketches of Hero, Jake Parker. Inktober, the guy that started Inktober, did this sketch for me at New York.
Yeah.
This one is Scoot Mahoon, who, if you guys ever pick up Previews magazine and you see at the front of Previews magazine that little comic strip that's in there, that's his art. He did a fantastic image for me.
Right.
And let me see, who else do I have in here? Oh, Thom Zane. He's another fantastic indie artist that did this version of Hero, which is cool. But in book 2, I have even more. But I want the one.
I have a question for you. Do you have these on PDF at all?
Actually, I do. Both Hero Book 1 and Book 2 are available in black and white in PDF form on Lulu for you to purchase if you wanted to. Actually, I'm not sure if I took those down or not. I might have taken.
Yeah, I
them
wanted
down.
to do my homework and see if I could find more questions. I wanted.
Actually, all of Book 1 is available on Webtoons, but it's the problem with Webtoons is it's made for line art, very thin, and you can't see the whole. It's very difficult to see, especially when you have a double page splash. It's extremely small and tiny. So, but I put it up there in order to try to get viewers interested in it, and I got some, but I never put book 2 up because it was a lot of work for very few views. So unless you're somebody who they're promoting as one of their artists, you don't get a lot of views. But it is a free platform for people to show off their webcomics if anybody's interested in it.
Now tomorrow, Avery will be able to join us, right?
Yes.
Because I think I picked up on some things about his coloring style that remind me of a couple of children's book guys. And I don't know if I'm wrong, but I'll have to find out. But yeah, I think I picked up on a couple of real popular guys that are like, wow, I really see some of their work, their coloring in his colors, you know.
Yeah. Well, one of the things he brought to the book is I intended it to have an animated feel to it. That's why a lot of panels, the characters are separate from the background. He took that as a step further in the fact that he did kind of two-toned type of coloring on the characters, and then he went like totally digital painting on the backgrounds. So,
right.
I mean, it's just
and he adds a little bit of texture also that takes it a step above that almost two-cell shaded quality. Yep. He takes it a little bit beyond that with these textures that I picked up on, and I'm really interested to find out if I'm on the right track with some of his influences, you know.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find a page that would be really good to okay. The on the Indiegogo page there, one of the pages is page 13 where it has Granny Aura saying he'll be the greatest hero our world has ever known. This is what the black and white version looks like. It's very I was
Mignola-esque.
I was trying to channel my inner Mignola when I did this. But
is that her there, the Granny?
Yes, that's Granny. That's Granny.
Sorry, cut you off. I just wanted to ask one quick question about her. Is she like his sage Obi-Wan sort of thing, like training him, giving him advice? Just by the way you've been talking about, it sounds sort of similar.
Her role in the first book is really just to help name him. She's not somebody that's involved in his life like an Obi-Wan Kenobi would be. So that's more of his. I hate to say it's more of his mother's job. She was very much the biggest influence on him. Kind of made him into the man he is, so forth. But she, in this book, even though she's only in it for a few pages, she became kind of a fan favorite to a lot of people who actually got a chance to read the book. Same with his older brother Brock, who shows up in this first chapter. People liked those two characters so much that I had to bring them back in book 2, and they're a big focus in book 2. And what's really funny is in the story, this isn't really spoiling anything. Right after they name Hero, Granny Aura says, "Okay, I gotta go. I gotta head out." And the mom's like, "Hey, why don't you stay for some tea and some snacks or something?" And Granny Aura says, "No, I'm gonna leave before the rude one gets here." And then that's when Brock shows up, and they kind of go at each other, and it's almost like a loving, like she calls him a buffoon and so forth, and he just pisses her off, and she just leaves. She's so disgusted by him. And in book 2, the relationship between those two characters is so radically different, even though they still act the same way around each other. Their stories are so much more intertwined than you'd think, and it's one of the reasons why I love the two of their relationship. And what happened in book 2, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to reintroduce Brock, but I'm going to have some radically altered things happen to him. And I told her the story of what was going to happen to him. And she's like, I can't believe you're going to do that to this character. And I said, but it has a happy ending. And she's like, okay, whatever.
Well,
it's so hard not to spoil stuff.
Well, I got some good news for you, Misfit.
Yeah.
You just broke the $1,000 mark.
Oh, hot damn.
1,001.
All right. Excellent.
You're
I
welcome.
think somebody bought the $30. Oh, you bought it, Melter?
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah, good job.
Fantastic. All right. Very cool. I do appreciate it. Most definitely. I do.
Oh, John sweetened the pot.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Hey, how about this? If you want, have them send it to you first so you can make copies, and then you can send it back to me.
Okay, I can let him know if he's up for that.
So that way you can have your own copy too.
Yeah, and then he can be included in one of the upcoming books because, like I said, in book 2 we have even more of them. And I wanted to show you guys this real quick. I won't show you all of them because there's some really cool ones in here. But these are some of my fan art that got in here. This is Lilia, who at the time was age 5. I had given a couple copies of the black and white book to my local comic book store, and a lady came in one time and saw it and bought it, and then gave it to her sister who had a little girl, and she loved it. She fell in love with it. And on Free Comic Book Day, I was at the store doing a signing, and her mom had come in to pick up her pull, and she said, "Wait a minute, are you the Hero guy?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Are you going to be here for a little bit?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "I'm going to come back with my daughter. She wants to meet you." And she came back and she did this drawing for me, and she told me how much she loved Hero. And I said, "Oh, that is definitely going in the next book." And because I put her drawing in the book, I gave her a copy of book 2 for free, and I left it with her. We left it at the store so that when she came into the store, she got it. And I also included one of the original panels of art from the book. And I have a saying that I want to be somebody's Stan Lee. This person, I'm her Stan Lee. She absolutely adores everything I do now.
Really cool, man.
And then I have a friend of mine named James, whose son at the time was 4. And these are some of the images, sketches that he did for me. He's actually, I think he's 6 now. And I talked to his dad just the other day, and he says, "Oh yeah, he's still drawing Hero drawings." He says he's drawing more of other characters as well, but he's got Hero drawings. So next time I see him, he's got new drawings for me. And I'm like, that is fantastic. I absolutely love that.
Cool.
And then of course, he had to have his dad do a drawing too. So this is the dad, and this is the kid. So I just love that. I think it's fantastic.
Yes.
Actually, you guys want to see a really cool one that I got one year?
Yeah.
James Silvani, I can't remember his name, how he says it, but he did this for me for New York last year. He's very much Disney-esque. He does a lot of Disney comics. He did a Disney version of Hero, which made me want to go back and redraw the entire book and do it in a Disney style. but this is
Yeah.
just a fantastic image.
Who's the one beside it?
That's Ben Caldwell. He, I saw him. Actually, I met him in 2016 at New York and asked him if he'd do a sketch. He's like, "Oh, I don't do creator own. I'm not into that stuff." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I showed him the book, and he said, "Ooh, this is good. Come back, and I'll try to do it later." Well, I never made it back. So the next time I saw him in 2017, I showed him the book again. He says, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll do it for you." So he did this really quick sketch for me, and it's just such a weird one because he asked me, he says, "What kind of creature is Hero?" I said, "Well, he's based on a raccoon." He says, "Okay, I'll use that as my starting point." So, but yeah, I've got a whole bunch more in here. I collect original art, and mostly sketches, and I collect 3 types of sketches. The first one is my all-time favorite character, Batgirl. I love Batgirl. She's my favorite character. I have dozens and dozens of sketches of her by all different artists, and I even have one of my favorites is a Walter Simonson. I have a Walter Simonson Batgirl headshot, which is really weird because when I asked him to do it, he asked me for reference. So I really quickly drew a drawing of Batgirl and showed it to him. And he said, "What the hell is this?" But he did it anyway. That was fantastic. And number 2 is I collect sketches of my characters, mostly Hero, but I have other characters that I've had people sketch. And the third type of sketch I collect is creator owned. So if you are an artist and you've created a character, I want a drawing of your character. So
I've got several.
yeah. Why that's one of the things I like. Actually, Ben Caldwell is one of the. I think I have 3 or 4 artists where I have one of each of those. I have Ben Caldwell. I have a Batgirl sketch from him. I have a Hero sketch, and I also have a sketch of one of his characters from one of his books. So he's one of the guys that I've got all 3 of. So
I just came up with an idea for you. You know.
Okay, hit me.
I don't know if you're going to do any more of these black and white books, but if you do, maybe like the last 20 or 30 pages are like a flip book, and you sort of your hero is in moving animation. That'd be kind of cool because it's something I've never seen, like a combination of, a comic, storybook, fan pages, and then all of a sudden you could just flip the last 20 or 30 pages and it moves. That'd be so cool.
That would be cool. Actually, I could actually see it as a separate standalone, whole nother book. So,
you know what though? Because you only do it on one side. You could actually do it in the fan section where on each side of the one page would be like the fan drawing or whatever. But if you turn the book a certain way, it's a flip version of some things. Wow, that'd be wicked cool.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
I love that idea.
Well, that means you need to do it as well then,
Well, I mean, when you were flipping through the book, you kind of like, I saw the pictures moving and I'm like, it just came to me like, I knew what you were doing, but I was like, you know what? Imagine if what it was actually a little bit of a portion of Flipbook. That'd be so cool.
I was just going to say, you're crazy. I was flipping it way too fast. But then again, there's a lot of stuff in here I try not to spoil. So, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in between books 1 and 2 that it's very much character defining in some cases. So,
Andrew, you like Batgirl ones? Here's a one I did on my live stream. Batgirl.
Oh, okay, very good. Actually, what she's got the black suit with the yellow logo. Yeah, I like the my all-time favorite version is the Batman the Animated Series version.
Uh-huh.
So
I just figured out what Manny's doing.
What am I doing?
You're making Skunk Girl. She's gonna floss.
Hey, don't give away my next animation. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm gonna do that. It's gonna be a Fortnite thing. Okay.
Oh, we got Avid Comic Readers here. He says, "Man, that artist Andrew. Wish I could stay early day tomorrow. I absolutely love reading Hero. Great stuff. the character Hawkeye is my favorite. And he retracted some message and then says, "Good night, all."
Yeah, Avid is one of the guys that actually we met him. He was coming through Jacksonville visiting some family, and me and Avery met him up at the one of our local comic book shops, and I gave him a copy of Hero, and we had a good time. He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, we all seem to be pretty good dudes here in this community. It's good meeting new people.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, what? Oh, what? You're not a good dude?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, I did a speak for yourself joke earlier today. I went by Panera, which is a restaurant type place, and to do a takeout for my wife because she likes their soup. And they have a little bench where you sit down and wait. And there was an older gentleman sitting on the end, and I sat down on the other end, and I'm playing with my phone. And this other lady comes up, an older lady, and the guy looks up at her and says, "Go ahead, please sit down. You can sit in between us." And he said, "We don't bite." And she sat down, and I turned and I looked and I said, "Speak for yourself." And I was like, "Oh man, what a way to introduce myself to strangers by implying that I'm going to bite you." It's guys, I'm really good at bad dad jokes. So just so you know.
Cat. Where's the dog?
Yeah, keep moving. Stupid.
Oh,
cat.
it's a kitty.
My daughter's cat.
Oh, is that Manny's dog? Oh. Manny, where's the dog?
Here, I wanted to.
I don't know where my dog is right now.
Avid mentioned Hawkeye. This is my character Hawkeye. This is one of the sketches I did. This will eventually be up on the Indiegogo for somebody who wants to buy it.
Cool.
Yeah, not only that, I want to use
that guy's
reference. I need some Hawkeye reference.
Actually, on the if you go to the Indiegogo campaign, he's featured twice. There's the pin-up in which he's fighting against the lizard, and if you go down to the bottom where it has examples of the 9x12 sketches, he's the first drawing I ever did of him is in there, where he's standing there holding the bow and arrow.
How many watchers do you have right now, Rick? 12.
12.
Come on, everyone. Who hasn't backed this book? Let's back it. We want this definitely to be something that's ongoing and goes to the end.
Hey guys, I need to step away for just a quick second. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. You're getting your money's worth with it.
Oh yeah, look how much you're getting in book one. It's incredible. And I've seen I mean, if you haven't seen the coloring, go check it out on Indiegogo. This is amazing coloring. This guy really knows what he's doing. I really dug in and just looked close at what he's got going on, and there's some definite children's book influences. There's Ecklenberg I can see in there. There's a little bit of Dieter Lizzie, which is awesome. I mean, those guys are like award-winning children's book artists, you know.
Yeah.
This book is gonna be great because they got 10 years. They're like 2 and 3, so if they get a little older, I'll probably put them down and read this book to them later.
Yeah, here's the art. I brung up the thing again. You know, you can't. Well, don't worry. I locked it on myself. You guys can talk and comment about it while I go through it.
Yeah, we'll talk, eh?
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, eh?
How come we sound better than you?
I love this book, actually. You know that? I don't. How do you feel?
All right,
about
sorry
it, man?
guys. What did I miss?
No, we're talking about your book.
Oh, okay.
The coloring. I decided to go back to the Indiegogo page, lock it on myself while those guys are talking about your coloring of it or what Todd was and all that.
If you stop on,
sorry, last thing from me. The dog dude with the I'm just looking at your Indiegogo page. The dog with the red tank, is that Brock? Red tank top,
yes, that's Brock. That's his older brother.
Alright, cool.
See Brock the Rock.
Very much so.
There's
part
Brock.
part of his story is in book 2, you find out that he joins like a an MMA type of traveling fighting characters, and he's known as Brock the Rock.
Why
And
does every kid create a character named Brock the Rock?
I don't know. It just flows so well together.
And I did that when I was a kid. I still got Brock the Rock.
Well, here, let me show you something real quick. Since you're on that, focusing on that page, I want to show you what the original black and white looks like, and you guys can get an idea of what Avery did for that page. This is what the original black and white looks like, and when you look at the color page, he took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, the coloring's really well done.
Yeah.
Yep.
I better go check something. See what my light is on. Hold on, I'll be right back, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, Avery definitely took my art and took it to a whole nother level, and I truly greatly appreciate it.
This is a very good project, and I've got to get in on it. It's definitely worth the money.
I beat you to it, Rick.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to get John's sketch, which I can't get obviously now, but.
Then you just got to commission John. That's all you got to do, Rick.
Oh yeah, if any level that has a sketch, which is pretty much all of them, you can request which character you want. It doesn't have to be hero. If you like Hawkeye, I'll draw Hawkeye for you. I mean, I can do. I like drawing all of them, so.
Definitely, but yeah, probably. I'm not sure they're going to go for the $20 or $30 level yet. But I'm going to go for one of those two. For $20 for all those pages, you can't go wrong. I might try and do a sketch of them too, hero.
Well, I'll make you a deal. You do a sketch for me, and I'll do a sketch for you. Whoever you like. Do you have a favorite character?
Of yours?
No, just in general.
I'm gonna do a Canadian Shield for you, man. Fan art, dude. Come on, Rick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll probably get him to do one of my original characters. Probably one of my original 7. I've got a good Canadian Shield.
Yeah,
maybe I'll go Flamer and Insecto.
Oh man, no! Gotta do Canadian Shield, man. That's some of
the hero sketches I have in here some of them were commissions that I paid for. Some of them were art swaps. I draw your character, you draw mine, and that happened all the time. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, it is 10 to 1 my time, my friends.
Are you getting sleepy there, Mr.
Yes.
Rick Piper?
Well, yes and no. It's not so much I am getting sleepy. It's more like I have to go to bed because I have to get up at like 7 in the morning. I've got church to go to tomorrow, or later today.
That's funny because that's what time I went to bed because of last night's stream with some of these guys.
Yeah, we went for a few hours yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, Manny, you want to show for yourself?
Well, most likely, if you're going to shut down, I'm going to show for myself and come on over to my channel in about 10 minutes. I'll be starting up a stream, which I will always be joining some Skunk Girl tonight. And obviously, Todd, guess what I am doing? And I'll be continuing doing this animation cells over there. Yeah, so
Manny, on my Facebook page, recently I there was a video that you can watch of Aaron Blaze.
Okay.
And he shows a little bit about what you do in the in-betweens and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, you should watch that. It's really cool.
Cool. I'm just trying to get the masters right now, the finish and the start pose.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got to go fill in all the rest inside. Yeah, so I'll be working on this, trying to get the master down first.
Okay, cool. Todd,
yeah,
you
Andrew,
want
it was good meeting you, Andrew, and I'll send you the link if you want to hop over if you're still up for it.
I probably can't continue this evening, but I definitely check it out in the future. My wife kind of came into the room and says, "You do realize it's almost 1 a.m., right?" Says, yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's the same time. He's the same time zone as me, so.
Sometimes when you're having fun, you forget these little things, you know. Luckily, I don't have to go to work in the morning, so I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay, Todd, you want to show for yourself?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Maroney Todd. You can find me on my channel tomorrow. Well, I'll be talking process with Andrew and Avery of Misfit Corner Comics. So come join us. We're going to get deeper into sort of how they do things, the way they do them, and talk a little bit about start to finish, how he comes up with a story, you know, and sort of hit him with some heavy questions. So join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and let's learn a bit more about Hero.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah. Melter, you want to show?
Yeah, sure, because like I'm going to go to bed too. So yeah, you can find me here on YouTube as PS Melter. You can find me on Twitter at Melter _P.
Cool. Risey?
I'm sorry, I had myself muted. People are yelling. I'm Risey Lee. I'm mostly always in the chat everywhere. I've got a YouTube channel, Risey Lee, but you can check it out. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with that yet, though.
Oh, this is Ryan?
Good to hear you, Todd.
Oh, excellent. I'm so glad you came on. I didn't even realize it was you.
Yeah,
I'm using my brother's computer, so I've got a different profile picture on at the moment. I've got his.
Yeah, but you've got this kind of figured out by doing this?
Yep, figured it out yesterday finally. I was like, can't believe how simple it was, and I was making it so hard.
Right. So we'll have to get you on my show. Too,
definitely.
right?
I just finished season 8 of Archer.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's a good show.
And of course, now Misfit Comics Corner. Andrew, show for yourself and your comic.
All right. Best place to find me on YouTube, Misfit Corner Comics. Twitter, search Misfit Corner Comics. I'm there too. But this was a lot of fun, guys. I really appreciate it. If you get an opportunity, go check out the Indiegogo. It'll be up for another 2 weeks. If we don't meet our goal, that's okay. We have plans. We have big plans to do more. And like I said, book 1's in the can. Book 2 is drawn and written, is being colored as we speak, and we're working on book 3. And if you check out the Misfit Corner Comics YouTube channel, you can actually follow along and watch us create the next book. But thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course.
If anybody has any inroads to publishers that do children's books, if you know anybody or a relative or anybody or have a connection, let's help Andrew out, because this is a very quality book. Between him and Avery and what they're doing, and Mike, I'm a true believer. You know, this is definite quality. I love what I'm seeing. I love every page that I've seen. I really want this to succeed. So if you do know anybody that works at any of these companies like Archaea or Fantagraphics or anything, this is a perfect book for them to publish. But if not, well, we're going to get it anyway, right?
That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah, I've always said if people can see it, I can sell it. You know, if they can see what I'm doing, because whenever I went to a conventions, I would put the original art up around the table, and I got a lot of people. They'd walk by, they'd look, and they'd stop, and they'd come back. They check out the art. I give them the pitch, and most of the time, I could sell them on the book. But it's getting in front of people that's really difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds. But stuff like this, channels like you guys, where you're talking and you're giving people a platform, is absolutely fantastic. And believe I truly appreciate it, and I just hope you guys continue to doing what you're doing, because the more people that see it, the more people are going to get into it. And this goes for every project out there. So bottom of my heart, guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And of course, I am Rick Piper of Cross Comics. You can find me here Monday through Friday at noon, and usually at about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do these shows every Saturday for some comic book or another coming out. So be sure to check me out each and every day. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under the moniker of Cross Comics. And Andrew, anytime if you happen to see me on and you want to come in and chat, just pop in the chat and say, "Hey, Rick, send me a link," and I'd be happy.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Hey, Rick, I sent you the link. I just sent it to all you guys.
Well, if I didn't have to get up early in the morning, I would definitely jump on your channel.
Yes.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, same here. So we'll see everybody later. Bye for now. God bless. Love having everybody on. Love having everybody in the chat. Have a great night. God bless.